The CEO's office was silent except for the sound of her braking. Veronica Lane had built an empire from nothing, commanded boardrooms with a single glance, and never let anyone see her bleed. But on this late Friday night, alone in her corner office overlooking a city that sparkled with other people's happiness, the armor finally cracked. "No one wants to date me," she whispered to the empty room, her fingers tracing the scars hidden beneath designer silk, scars that had saved her life but stolen her future. Across the building, Daniel Carter was gathering reports for his final delivery of the night, unaware that walking through that door would change everything. A widowed father working 2 jobs to give his daughter the life his late wife had dreamed of, Daniel had built walls around his heart so high he'd forgotten what it felt like to let someone in. But sometimes the bravest thing isn't surviving, it's allowing yourself to live again. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop your city in the comments below and hit that like button so I can see how far this story reaches. You won't want to miss what happens next. The fluorescent lights of Hartwell Industries' executive floor had been dimmed for hours, leaving only the glow from Veronica Lane's office to pierce the darkness. Daniel Carter adjusted the stack of project reports under his arm, checking his watch. 10:47 p.m. His daughter Mia would be asleep by now, safe with Mrs. Chen next door, probably still clutching the worn stuffed rabbit that had been her mother's last gift. 3 years. 3 years since Sarah's laugh had filled their small apartment. 3 years since cancer had taken her. Her. Leaving Daniel with a 6-year-old daughter, a mountain of medical debt, and a heart that had learned to function without actually feeling. The elevator chimed softly as it reached the 20th floor. Daniel stepped into the hushed corridor, his footsteps muffled by carpet that probably cost more than his monthly rent. He'd been working at Hartwell for 18 months now, day shift in the analytics department, night deliveries to supplement his income. The company was generous with overtime opportunities, and Daniel had become a fixture in these halls after everyone else had gone home. Veronica Lane's office door stood slightly ajar, light spilling into the hallway. Daniel hesitated. Protocol said to leave executive deliveries with security, but Ms. Lane had specifically requested these reports tonight. Something about a board meeting Monday morning. He'd seen her around the building, always impeccably dressed, always focused, always alone, the kind of beautiful that seemed designed to keep people at a distance. He knocked lightly. "Ms. Lane, I have the quarterly analysis reports you requested." Silence. Then, a sound that made his chest tighten, the kind of quiet, desperate crying that someone does when they think no one can hear. Daniel froze, his hand on the door frame. Every instinct screamed at him to leave the reports and go. This wasn't his business. This woman was his boss's boss's boss. But that sound, he knew that sound. He'd made it himself, late at night in his bathroom, with the shower running so Mia wouldn't hear Daddy falling apart. "Miss Lane?" He pushed the door open slowly. "Are you all right?" Veronica Lane sat behind her massive glass desk, her back to the door, shoulders shaking. The Chicago skyline spread behind her like a painting of someone else's life. She didn't turn around, but her crying stopped abruptly. "Leave the reports on the desk," she said, her voice professionally controlled despite the tears he could hear beneath it. "Thank you, Mr. Carter." Daniel Carter. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. Later, he wouldn't be able to explain why. Maybe it was the loneliness in her voice. Maybe it was the way she sat so perfectly still, like someone who'd forgotten how to let themselves break. "And I will, but are you okay?" "I'm fine." She still didn't turn around. "It's late. You should go home to your family." "It's just my daughter and me," Daniel said quietly, setting the reports on the corner of her desk. "And she's asleep. Has been for hours." Something in his tone made Veronica finally turn her chair around. Even with tears streaking her makeup, even with her carefully styled hair slightly mussed, she was stunning. But it was her eyes that caught him. Dark, intelligent eyes that held the kind of exhaustion that came from carrying too much for too long. She studied him for a long moment, and Daniel watched something shift in her expression. Recognition, maybe. The kind that had nothing to do with knowing someone's name and everything to do with recognizing a fellow survivor. "You're widowed," she said. It wasn't a question. Daniel nodded slowly. 3 years. Cancer. I'm sorry. Veronica reached for a tissue, dabbing at her eyes with the kind of precise movements that spoke of years of practice at holding herself together. That must be... I can't imagine. Most people can't. Daniel found himself sitting in one of the leather chairs facing her desk, without quite remembering deciding to. But something tells me you're not most people. Veronica laughed, but it was bitter. No, I suppose I'm not. She gestured vaguely at herself. Ovarian cancer. 2 years post-treatment. Clean scans, they tell me. A miracle, they tell me. Lucky to be alive. But, Daniel prompted gently, but the treatment that saved my life destroyed any chance of having children. The surgeries left scars, the early menopause, the hormonal changes. Everything about me is different now. She met his eyes directly, defiant and vulnerable at the same time. And men can handle a lot of things, Mr. Carter, but apparently a woman who can't give them children and comes with more baggage than a 747, that's where they draw the line. Daniel leaned back in his chair, considering. The men you've been dating are idiots. Veronica blinked, startled. Excuse me. I said they're idiots. Daniel's voice was calm, matter of fact. My wife went through chemo. I watched her lose her hair, her strength, her ability to keep food down. I saw the scars from her surgeries. I held her hand through treatments that nearly killed her before the cancer did. And you know what? She was never more beautiful to me than in those moments. Because I was seeing her fight. I was seeing her strength. The scars weren't flaws. They were proof she was a warrior. Veronica's eyes filled with fresh tears. She was lucky to have you. I was lucky to have her, Daniel corrected softly. Even for the short time we did. And yeah, losing her nearly destroyed me. Still does some days. But what we had was real because we saw each other. Really saw each other. Scars and all. They sat in silence for a moment, the city lights twinkling below them. Two people who'd learned that survival sometimes felt like its own kind of death. I don't talk about this, Veronica finally said. My diagnosis, my treatment, only my medical team and the board know. I kept it private, handled it all quietly. Came back to work like nothing had happened. That must be exhausting. You have no idea. She laughed, and this time it sounded almost genuine. I sit in meetings and smile and make decisions about millions of dollars, and all I can think is that I'm 34 years old and I'll never have a child. I'll never experience pregnancy. I'll never... Her voice broke. And I tell myself it's fine. I tell myself I have my career, my success. But on nights like tonight, when I'm alone in this office at almost 11 p.m. on a Friday, I realize that no amount of success fills the silence in my apartment. Daniel understood that silence. He lived in it every day. How old is your daughter? Veronica asked, changing the subject as she gathered herself. 9. Her name's Mia. Daniel pulled out his phone, showing her his lock screen. Mia grinning at the camera, missing 2 front teeth, wearing her school play costume from last month. She's the reason I get up every morning, the reason I work 2 jobs, the reason I'm still here at all. Veronica studied the photo, her expression softening. She's beautiful. She has your eyes. She has her mother's smile, thank God. Daniel pocketed his phone. Are you hungry? Veronica looked startled. What? Hungry. When's the last time you ate? He gestured at her desk, empty except for the reports and a coffee cup that had clearly been refilled multiple times. I'm guessing you've been here since 7 this morning, surviving on coffee and whatever sad desk snacks this building stocks. I had a protein bar around 3, Veronica admitted. That was 7 hours ago. Daniel stood. There's a diner 2 blocks from here. Nothing fancy, but they're open late and their pie is decent. You shouldn't be alone right now and I could use some food before I head home. Mr. Carter, Daniel, and I'm not asking as an employee. I'm asking as one human being to another who knows what it's like to feel invisible. He headed toward the door, then paused. Plus, you're my boss's boss's boss. Consider it networking. Despite herself, Veronica smiled, a real smile this time. That's a terrible excuse. It's 11 p.m. on a Friday. It's the best I've got. Daniel held the door open. Come on, my treat. Lord knows you pay me enough to cover pie and coffee. Veronica hesitated, years of professional boundaries warring with the desperate need for connection. Finally, she grabbed her purse. This is highly inappropriate. Probably, Daniel agreed, but I think we've already blown past appropriate, don't you? The diner was exactly as advertised, vinyl booths, fluorescent lighting, and a waitress named Doris who'd probably been working there since the Reagan administration. At nearly midnight, they had the place mostly to themselves. Just a few other late-night stragglers scattered across the room. They settled into a booth by the window, and Daniel ordered pie without even looking at the menu. 2 slices of apple heated with vanilla ice cream, coffee for me, and tea, Veronica said. Chamomile if you have it. Doris gave them an appraising look that suggested she'd seen everything in her decades of late-night service and found their pairing mildly interesting but not remarkable. Coming right up, honey. You come here often? Veronica asked, amusement coloring her tone. Once a week, usually, after my Friday deliveries. Daniel shrugged. I like the quiet. Plus, Mia has a sleepover at a friend's house tomorrow morning, which means I can sleep in past 6 a.m. It's like a vacation. Sleeping past 6 is a vacation. Your life sounds exhausting, says the woman who was crying alone in her office at 11 p.m. Veronica flinched, and Daniel immediately regretted his bluntness. But she surprised him by laughing. Touché! Their order arrived quickly, and for a few minutes, they ate in comfortable silence. The pie was exactly as mediocre as Daniel had promised, but the company made it taste better. Tell me about your wife, Veronica said suddenly, if that's not too painful. Daniel considered the question, stabbing at his ice cream with his fork. She was sunshine. That's the only way I can describe her. She lit up every room she walked into, made friends everywhere, could talk to anyone about anything. He smiled at the memory. We met in college. She was studying art history. I was in business analytics. We had exactly nothing in common except that we both showed up to the same coffee shop every morning at 7 a.m. What happened? She started drawing me. Every morning there'd be a new little sketch on a napkin left at my usual table. At first just my coffee cup, then my hands, then my profile. After 3 weeks of this, I finally worked up the courage to wait for her to arrive and asked her out. That's sweet, Veronica said softly. She said yes immediately. Later told me she'd been waiting for me to ask since day one. Daniel's smile faded. We had 7 good years, got married right after graduation. Had Mia 2 years later. Sarah was the perfect mom, patient, creative, always making ordinary moments magical. Then Mia turned 3, and Sarah found a lump during a self-exam. How long did she fight? 3 years? Surgery, chemo, radiation. We threw everything at it, cleaned out our savings, took on debt, tried every treatment the doctors suggested. She was so strong, so determined. Right up until the end, she kept telling Mia that Mommy was going to be fine. Daniel's voice roughened, but we both knew. The last few weeks, when it was just us late at night, she'd make me promise things. Promise to let Mia remember her. Promise to show Mia her artwork. Promise to keep living, not just existing. That last one's the hardest promise, isn't it? Veronica's eyes were bright with unshed tears. Every single day. Daniel met her gaze. But I'm trying, for Mia. And lately, for myself too. Veronica reached across the table, her hand hovering near his for a moment before she pulled back. Professional boundaries, even in a diner at midnight. Your wife was right to trust you with those promises. I can tell you're keeping them. Most days, some days I'm just going through the motions. Daniel finished his pie, pushing the plate aside. Your turn. Tell me about Veronica Lane before she was CEO of Hartwell Industries. There's not much to tell. I've been focused on my career since college. Harvard MBA, started at Hartwell as a junior analyst, worked my way up, made partner at 30, CEO at 32. She recited it like a resume, all facts and no feeling. My parents are both professors. They valued education and achievement above everything else. I learned early that excellence was the baseline, not the goal. That sounds lonely. It was, is. Veronica stirred her tea, watching the liquid swirl. I've always been the smartest person in the room. Always the most driven, most disciplined, most successful. But success is a terrible companion at night, Daniel. It doesn't hold your hand when you're scared. It doesn't tell you you're going to be okay when the doctor uses words like aggressive and stage 3. When were you diagnosed? 2 years ago. I'd been having pain, irregular cycles, but I kept ignoring it. Too busy, too important, too many meetings. By the time I finally saw a doctor, it had spread. She spoke clinically, as if discussing someone else's trauma. The oncologist was blunt. Surgery, chemo, the works, and even then, my chances were maybe 60%. I took a 6-month leave, told everyone it was for a special project, went through treatment alone, came back like nothing had happened. Why alone? Daniel asked gently. Because I didn't know how to be weak. I've spent my entire life being strong, being capable, being the one who fixes things. The idea of anyone seeing me bald and vomiting and scared, she shook her head. I couldn't do it. But you're still doing it, being alone with it. Yes. The admission seemed to cost her something. I date occasionally, meet men through work functions, charity events. They see the position, the penthouse, the portfolio. They don't see the scars or the fear or the empty nursery I'll never fill. And when they get close enough to see those things, they leave, always. Then they're not worthy of you, Daniel said firmly. Any of you, the successful parts or the scared parts. Veronica's laugh was shaky. You don't even know me. I know you work until 11 p.m. on a Friday. I know you care enough about your company to request reports personally. I know you're strong enough to survive cancer and smart enough to build an empire, but human enough to cry when it all gets to be too much. He met her eyes steadily. I know you're sitting in a dive diner at midnight with a stranger because you're tired of being alone. That takes courage. They talked until almost 2 a.m, the conversation flowing from heavy topics to lighter ones and back again. Veronica told him about growing up as an only child, always trying to earn her parents' approval through perfect grades and academic achievements. Daniel shared stories about Mia's latest obsession with marine biology and her insistence that they needed to visit every aquarium within a 3-state radius. She sounds wonderful, Veronica said, genuine warmth in her voice. You're a good father. I'm trying to be. Daniel checked his phone, noting the time. I should get you back to your car, Mrs. Chen charges extra if I'm not back by 3. They walked back to Hartwell's parking garage in companionable silence, the city quiet around them. When they reached Veronica's car, a sleek Mercedes that probably cost more than Daniel made in 2 years, she turned to face him. Thank you, she said softly. For tonight, for seeing me, for the terrible pie and the surprisingly good company. Any time, Daniel said, and meant it. Though next time we're trying the diner across town. I hear their pie is actually good. Next time? Veronica's eyebrow arched, but she was smiling. If you want, no pressure, but if you're ever working late on a Friday and need company... He shrugged, suddenly feeling self-conscious. I'm usually around. Veronica studied him for a long moment, something shifting in her expression. Daniel Carter, you're either the kindest man I've ever met or the most naive. Can't I be both? She laughed, the sound lighter than anything he'd heard from her all night. I suppose you can. She pulled out her phone. Give me your number, just in case I need someone to tell me I'm being an idiot about my dating life again. They exchanged numbers, and Daniel tried not to think too hard about what it meant that Veronica Lane, CEO, cancer survivor, most untouchable woman in the building, wanted to stay in touch with him. Good night, Veronica, he said, using her first name for the first time. Good night, Daniel. She paused before getting into her car. And Daniel, your wife was right. You do need to keep living, not just existing. Don't forget that. She drove away, leaving Daniel standing in the parking garage, feeling something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Possibility. The weekend passed in its usual blur of Mia's activities. Saturday morning was her friend Emma's sleepover, which gave Daniel a rare few hours to himself. He used them to grocery shop, do laundry, and try not to think about Veronica Lane sitting alone in that office, crying into the darkness. He failed at the not thinking part. Sunday was their regular routine, pancakes for breakfast, a trip to the library, then the park if weather permitted. Mia chattered endlessly about Emma's house, Emma's new puppy, Emma's older brother who was totally gross but also kind of funny. Daddy, can we get a puppy? Mia asked for approximately the 1,000th time. Maybe when you're older, Daniel replied for approximately the 1,000th time. That's what you said about the hamster and the goldfish and the turtle. Those are all still maybes when you're older, Mia sighed dramatically, a skill she'd perfected at age 9. You're no fun. I'm lots of fun. I took you to the park, didn't I? The park doesn't count as fun. The park is just normal. But she was grinning as she ran toward the swings, her dark hair flying behind her. Daniel watched her play, his heart doing that painful, proud thing it always did when he saw how much she'd grown. She looked so much like Sarah. Same wild hair, same infectious laugh, same ability to find joy in small moments. But she had his stubbornness, his quiet determination. His phone buzzed in his pocket, a text from an unknown number. How's your Sunday going? V. Daniel stared at the message for a long moment before replying. Good. At the park with Mia, listening to the puppy argument again. How's yours? The response came quickly. Quieter, just finished a board report. Thinking about our conversation Friday. You were right about the pie being terrible. Told you. Should have trusted me on that. I'm learning that you're surprisingly trustworthy for someone who delivers reports at midnight. Daniel smiled, watching Mia attempt to swing high enough to touch the sky. I could say the same about CEOs who cry in their offices. Touché. Listen, I know this is forward, but would you and Mia like to have dinner sometime? Nothing weird, I'd like to meet her. If that's okay. Daniel's thumb hovered over the keyboard. This was crossing a line. This was his boss's boss's boss asking to have dinner with him and his daughter. This could complicate everything, his job, his carefully structured life, the walls he'd built to protect himself and Mia from more loss. But he was so tired of those walls. She'd like that. She's been asking for Italian food. There's a place near us that's family-friendly. Nothing fancy. Perfect. When? They made plans for the following Saturday, and Daniel pocketed his phone, trying to ignore the flutter of nerves in his stomach. This wasn't a date. This was just dinner. Two people who'd found unexpected common ground in a midnight conversation. Except Daniel knew himself well enough to recognize that he was already starting to care, and that terrified him. Monday morning at Hartwell Industries came with an unexpected complication. Daniel arrived at his desk in the analytics department to find his supervisor, Marcus Chen, waiting for him with an odd expression. Carter, my office. Now. Daniel's stomach dropped. Had someone seen him and Veronica at the diner? Had he crossed some line he didn't know about? Marcus closed the office door behind them, then broke into a grin. Relax. You're not in trouble. Opposite, actually. Ms. Lane personally requested you be assigned to the executive analysis team for the Chicago expansion project. What? Daniel blinked. Why? Didn't say. Just sent down a memo Friday afternoon before she left. Said your quarterly reports showed exactly the kind of detailed thinking they need for the expansion analysis. Marcus clapped him on the shoulder. This is good, Carter. Executive projects mean visibility, means bonuses, maybe even a promotion track if you play it right. Daniel managed to nod, his mind racing. Veronica had requested him specifically before their midnight conversation, which meant what exactly? Project kickoff is Thursday, Marcus continued. You'll be working directly with the executive team, including Ms. Lane herself. Think you can handle it? Yeah, Daniel said, finding his voice. Yeah, I can handle it. But as he returned to his desk, he wasn't sure if that was true. Working directly with Veronica, seeing her in professional mode, maintaining appropriate boundaries while remembering the way she'd cried in her office, the way she'd smiled over terrible pie, the way she'd asked to meet his daughter. It felt impossible. His phone buzzed. Another text from Veronica. Did Marcus tell you about the project assignment? Yes. Thank you. Though I'm not sure what I did to deserve it. You delivered comprehensive reports when asked on time with insights that most of my paid analysts miss. You earned it. The timing is just convenient. Convenient for what? For getting to know you better. Professionally, of course. Of course. Because having dinner with my daughter is super professional. That's different. That's personal. I can separate the two. Can you? Daniel stared at the message, considering. Could he? Could he work with Veronica, report to her, analyze data for her, and still maintain the tentative friendship they'd started building? I guess we'll find out Thursday. I guess we will. And Daniel? I'm looking forward to Saturday. Tell Mia I can't wait to meet her. Thursday's project kickoff meeting was everything Daniel had expected, and nothing he was prepared for. The executive conference room was all glass and steel, with a view of downtown Chicago that probably cost more than most people's houses. The team assembled was small but elite, 4 analysts, including Daniel, 2 senior strategists, and Veronica. She walked in wearing a navy suit that was all business, her hair pulled back severely, her expression the perfect mask of professional competence. If anyone had told Daniel this was the same woman who'd cried on his shoulder metaphorically 3 days ago, he wouldn't have believed them. "Good morning, everyone," Veronica said, her voice crisp and commanding. "Thank you for being here. As you know, Hartwell is considering a significant expansion into the Chicago market. This project will determine whether we move forward, and if so, how. I expect thorough analysis, creative thinking, and brutal honesty about the risks and opportunities." She outlined the project scope, timeline, and deliverables with the kind of precision that had made her CEO at 32. Her eyes passed over Daniel without any hint of recognition beyond professional acknowledgement. It should have reassured him. Instead, it made him oddly sad. The meeting lasted 2 hours. Daniel contributed when appropriate, keeping his suggestions focused and data-driven. Veronica acknowledged his points with the same neutral professionalism she showed everyone else. As the meeting broke up, she stopped him with a quiet, "Mr. Carter, a moment?" The others filed out, and suddenly they were alone in the conference room. Veronica's professional mask slipped just slightly. "How am I doing?" she asked quietly. "With the professional boundaries thing?" "Honestly, you're kind of terrifying," Daniel admitted. "In a good way. Very CEO-like." "Good. I need to maintain credibility, especially now that I've got you on this project." She glanced toward the door, making sure they were truly alone. "But I also need you to know that this," she gestured between them, "this friendship, or whatever it is, doesn't affect my professional judgment. You're here because you're good at your job." "I know," Daniel said, and he did. He'd seen his own reports, knew the level of detail and insight he provided. "I won't let you down." "I know you won't." Her expression softened. "Still on for Saturday?" "Mia's been asking about it every day. Apparently meeting a CEO is very exciting for a 9-year-old. Should I be worried?" "Only if you're not prepared for approximately 8,000 questions about marine biology and whether you've ever seen a blue whale." Veronica laughed, the sound quickly stifled as footsteps approached in the hallway. The professional mask snapped back into place just as Marcus appeared in the doorway. "Miss Lane, your 2 o'clock is waiting." "Thank you, Marcus." She nodded at Daniel, all business again. "Good work today, Mr. Carter. I'll expect your preliminary analysis by Monday." "Yes, ma'am." He left feeling oddly disoriented, like he was living in 2 different worlds that were on a collision course. Saturday arrived with the kind of nervous energy Daniel usually associated with job interviews. Mia had changed outfits 3 times, finally settling on her favorite purple dress with leggings. "Is she really a CEO, Daddy?" Mia asked for the 5th time as they drove to the restaurant. "Yes, really." "And she wants to have dinner with us?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because she's my friend and I wanted her to meet you." Mia processed this, her face scrunched in concentration. "Is she your girlfriend?" Daniel nearly drove off the road. "What? No, she's just a friend." "But you like her, I can tell." "Mia, it's okay if you like her, Daddy. Mommy would want you to be happy." She said it so matter-of-factly, with such childish wisdom, that Daniel's throat tightened. "How do you know that?" "Because Mommy loved you. And when you love someone, you want them to be happy even if you can't be there." Mia shrugged like this was obvious. "Emma's mom told me that when I asked about you being sad all the time." Daniel pulled into the restaurant parking lot and turned to look at his daughter. When had she gotten so wise? "I'm not sad all the time." "You are, though, but it's okay. I understand." Mia unbuckled her seatbelt. "Is that her?" Veronica stood near the restaurant entrance, and she'd clearly put thought into her outfit. Nice but casual, approachable but still put together. When she saw them approaching, her face lit up with genuine warmth. "You must be Mia," Veronica said, kneeling down to be at eye level with her. "I'm Veronica. Your dad has told me so much about you." "He's told me about you too," Mia said, studying Veronica with the intense scrutiny only children can manage. "He said you're really smart and you run a big company." "I try to be smart, and yes, I help run a company, but that's boring adult stuff." "I hear you're interested in marine biology." Mia's eyes went wide. "You know about marine biology?" "A little. I did a report on ocean conservation in college. Did you know that blue whales are the largest animals ever to have existed on Earth? Even bigger than dinosaurs?" And just like that, Mia was hooked. They made their way inside, and over pasta and breadsticks, Mia peppered Veronica with questions while Veronica answered each one with genuine interest. Daniel watched them interact, something warm and terrifying blooming in his chest. "Can we really not save all the coral reefs?" Mia asked at one point, her face concerned. "Some of them, probably not," Veronica admitted gently. "But that's why people like you, who care about ocean life, are so important. You'll be the generation that figures out how to protect what's left, and maybe even restore what we've damaged." "I'm going to be a marine biologist when I grow up," Mia announced, "and I'm going to save the whales." "I believe you will," Veronica said seriously, and Daniel could tell she meant it. After dinner, as they walked to their cars, Mia ran ahead to look at a dog someone was walking nearby, giving Daniel and Veronica a moment alone. "She's incredible," Veronica said softly. "You're raising an amazing human, Daniel." "Thank you for being so good with her. You didn't have to." "I wanted to." Veronica watched Mia kneel down to pet the dog, her expression wistful. "This is what I'll never have, you know. This moment. This connection with a child. And I'm trying to be okay with that, but nights like this make it harder." Daniel understood the subtext. She wasn't just talking about children in general. She was talking about this specific child, this specific family, this specific life she'd never have. "Veronica, don't." She held up a hand. "Don't apologize or try to fix it. Just let me feel it for a minute." So they stood together in the parking lot, watching Mia laugh with the dog owner, both of them carrying losses that could never quite be filled. "Daddy," Mia called out, "can Veronica come to the aquarium with us next weekend?" Daniel looked at Veronica, seeing his own surprise reflected in her face. "That's up to her, sweetheart." "I'd love to," Veronica said, and the smile she gave Mia was genuine and heartbreaking all at once. As they drove home that night, Mia chattering about all the things they'd see at the aquarium, Daniel realized he was in trouble. Real trouble. Because he wasn't just starting to care about Veronica Lane. He was starting to imagine a life where she was part of theirs. And after 3 years of carefully maintained emotional distance, that possibility felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, not sure if he was about to fly or fall. His phone buzzed as he was putting Mia to bed. A text from Veronica. "Thank you for tonight. Mia is wonderful. You're wonderful. I'm terrified of what that means, but also grateful. Sleep well." Daniel stared at the message for a long time before replying. "Me too, on all counts." It wasn't a declaration of anything. It wasn't a promise. But it was honest, and right now, honesty felt like the bravest thing either of them could offer. The aquarium trip the following Saturday changed everything, though neither Daniel nor Veronica realized it at the time. They met at the entrance just after opening, Mia practically vibrating with excitement as she clutched the annual pass Daniel had saved up to buy her for her birthday. "Did you know the beluga whales can recognize themselves in mirrors?" Mia announced as soon as she saw Veronica. "That means they have self-awareness, which is really rare in animals." "I did not know that," Veronica said, falling into step beside her. "What else should I know before we go in?" Mia launched into a detailed explanation of the aquarium's layout, which exhibits were must-sees, and her theory about why octopuses were clearly the most intelligent creatures in the ocean. Daniel walked behind them, watching Veronica give Mia her complete attention, asking follow-up questions and genuinely engaging with the 9-year-old's enthusiasm. They spent 4 hours wandering through darkened corridors filled with glowing tanks. Mia pressed her face against the glass at every exhibit, narrating facts she'd memorized from books and documentaries. Veronica listened patiently, occasionally catching Daniel's eye over Mia's head with expressions that ranged from amused to deeply moved. At the touch pool, Mia convinced Veronica to pet a stingray, laughing when Veronica squealed at the unexpected texture. "It feels like wet velvet," Veronica said, her hand still in the water. "That's exactly what Mommy said the first time she touched one," Mia said without thinking, then froze, glancing at Daniel with worried eyes. Daniel's chest tightened, but he managed a smile. "It's okay, sweetheart. It's a good memory." Veronica withdrew her hand slowly, her expression careful. "Your mom sounds like she was pretty amazing." "She was the best," Mia said firmly. "She used to draw all my favorite sea animals for me. I still have the pictures in my room." She looked up at Veronica with sudden intensity. "Do you draw?" "Not really. I'm more of a numbers person." "That's okay. Daddy's a numbers person too." Mia turned her attention back to the touch pool. "But he tries to draw with me sometimes anyway. He's really bad at it." "Hey," Daniel protested mildly, "my stick figures are very artistic." Veronica laughed, and the tension of the moment dissolved. But Daniel noticed how she stayed quieter after that, more observant, like she was trying to figure out where she fit in a family that still carried Sarah's memory everywhere they went. They had lunch at the aquarium cafe, Mia chattering about the dolphin show they'd just watched. Veronica mostly listened, asking questions when appropriate, but seeming content to let the conversation flow around her. "Are you okay?" Daniel asked quietly while Mia was distracted by the fish tank built into the restaurant wall. "Yeah," Veronica said, but her smile was sad. "Just thinking about how natural you two are together, how much history you share. It's beautiful, but it's also intimidating?" "A little," she admitted. "I don't know how to be part of this without disrupting it." "You're not disrupting anything," Daniel said firmly. "Mia asked you to come, remember? She wants you here." "But do you?" The question was quiet, vulnerable. Daniel met her eyes, seeing the fear there, the same fear he'd seen that night in her office. The fear of being unwanted, unnecessary, too much or not enough. "Yes," he said simply. "I do." The moment stretched between them, heavy with implications neither was quite ready to name. Then Mia returned to the table, and they shifted back into easier conversation. As they were leaving the aquarium, Mia asked the question Daniel had been dreading. "Daddy, can Veronica come over for movie night?" "Mia, Veronica might have other plans." "I don't, actually," Veronica interrupted. "What's movie night?" "Every Saturday we watch a movie and eat popcorn and stay up late," Mia explained. "It's tradition, and this week I get to pick the movie because I got an A on my science project." "What movie did you pick?" Veronica asked. "Finding Nemo, because it's about the ocean and family and never giving up." Mia looked at Veronica hopefully. "You could come, if you want to. Our apartment isn't fancy like your office, but we have a really good couch." Daniel watched Veronica's face cycle through emotions: surprise, longing, uncertainty. "I wouldn't want to intrude on your tradition." "It's not intruding if we invite you," Mia said with 9-year-old logic. "Right, Daddy?" "Right," Daniel agreed, though his heart was pounding. Inviting Veronica to the aquarium was one thing. Inviting her into their home, into their Saturday night ritual, felt like crossing a threshold he couldn't uncross. "You're welcome to join us, if you'd like." Veronica looked between them, and Daniel saw the exact moment she decided to be brave. "I'd love to." Their apartment was modest, a 2-bedroom in a building that had seen better decades, with furniture that was practical rather than stylish. Daniel felt suddenly self-conscious as he unlocked the door, seeing it through Veronica's eyes. The living room was dominated by Mia's artwork on the walls, photos of Sarah scattered among them, a bookshelf overflowing with children's books about marine life. But Veronica walked in like she was entering a sanctuary, her eyes taking in every detail with something like reverence. "It's perfect," she said softly. "It's small," Daniel countered. "It's a home. There's a difference." She paused in front of a photo of Sarah holding newborn Mia, both of them looking exhausted and radiant. She was beautiful. Yeah, she was. Daniel stood beside her, looking at the photo he'd seen 1,000 times. That was about 2 hours after Mia was born. Sarah had been in labor for 18 hours, but she refused to sleep until she'd memorized every detail of Mia's face. "I can see where Mia gets her determination." Veronica's fingers hovered near the frame, but didn't touch. Do you mind me being here? With her pictures? Her memory? No, Daniel said, and realized he meant it. Sarah would have liked you. She would have appreciated how you listen to Mia, how you take her seriously. I'm not trying to replace her. I want you to know that. I could never... I know. Daniel touched her shoulder gently. And I'm not looking for a replacement. I'm just trying to figure out what living looks like instead of just surviving. They were interrupted by Mia emerging from her room in pajamas, carrying an armful of blankets. Okay, movie protocol, she announced. We build a blanket fort on the couch, make popcorn with extra butter, and no talking during the sad parts because we'll all be crying anyway. We? Veronica asked, amused. Daddy cries every time Marlon thinks he lost Nemo. Every single time. It's a very emotional movie, Daniel defended himself. They built the blanket fort together, Mia directing the construction with the authority of an architect. Veronica took instruction well, laughing when her side of the fort collapsed twice before they got it right. You're not very good at this, Mia observed. I've never built a blanket fort before, Veronica admitted. Mia's eyes went wide. Never? Not even when you were a kid? My parents weren't really the blanket fort type. We were more about educational documentaries and museum visits. That sounds boring, Mia said bluntly. Mia, Daniel warned. It's okay, Veronica said, smiling. It was a little boring, but it's never too late to learn, right? They settled into the fort, Mia in the middle, the movie starting with its familiar piano theme. Daniel had seen Finding Nemo approximately 500 times, could recite entire scenes from memory, but watching it with Veronica there, seeing her laugh at Dory's antics and tear up during the emotional moments, made it feel new again. Halfway through the movie, Mia fell asleep against Veronica's shoulder, exhausted from the day's excitement. Veronica looked down at her, then at Daniel, her expression a mix of wonder and terror. What do I do? She whispered. Nothing. Just let her sleep. Daniel paused the movie, the sudden silence feeling significant. She doesn't usually warm up to people this quickly. I'm honored then. Veronica adjusted slightly to make Mia more comfortable, the movement careful and tender. This is what you do every Saturday? Most Saturdays. Sometimes she picks nature documentaries instead of movies. Last month we watched an 8-hour series about the Great Barrier Reef. 8 hours? She's very dedicated to her interest. Daniel studied Veronica's face in the flickering light from the paused screen. You're good with her. Natural. It's easy to be good with her. She's exceptional. Veronica's voice caught slightly. This is what I thought I'd have someday. Saturday movie nights, blanket forts, a child falling asleep on my shoulder. Before the diagnosis, before the treatment, I had this whole imagined future. And now you're here, Daniel said gently. Maybe not how you imagined, but here. Is that enough? Being part of someone else's family instead of building my own? The question hung between them, heavy with implications. Daniel didn't have an answer, wasn't sure there was one. I don't know, he admitted, but I know that Mia asked you here because she wants you around. And I know that I haven't felt this comfortable with anyone since Sarah. That has to mean something. Veronica was quiet for a long moment. I'm scared, she finally said, of wanting this, of letting myself imagine it could be real, because wanting things has only led to disappointment. I'm scared too, Daniel confessed, of letting someone in again, of Mia getting attached and then getting hurt if it doesn't work out, of feeling something real and having it taken away again. He reached over Mia's sleeping form, his hand finding Veronica's. But I'm more scared of spending the rest of my life behind walls because I'm too afraid to take a chance. Their fingers intertwined, the touch electric and terrifying and right. They sat like that for a long time, Mia sleeping between them, the movie forgotten, both of them on the edge of something that felt like falling and flying at the same time. Eventually Daniel carried Mia to her bed, tucking her in with practiced ease. When he returned to the living room, Veronica was standing by the window looking out at the city lights. I should go, she said. It's late. Stay, Daniel heard himself say. Not for anything, just to talk. Have some tea. I'm not ready for tonight to end yet. Veronica turned to face him, her expression vulnerable in the dim light. Okay. They sat at his small kitchen table, tea growing cold between them, as they talked about everything and nothing. Veronica told him about her childhood, growing up as an only child of academic parents who valued achievement over affection. Daniel shared memories of his parents, both gone now, who'd taught him that love was shown through actions rather than words. Did you always want to be a CEO? Daniel asked. Not always. When I was little, I wanted to be a teacher, but my parents convinced me that was beneath my potential. She smiled sadly. They weren't wrong about my capabilities, but they never understood that success and happiness aren't the same thing. Are you happy? It was a bold question, but they'd moved past pretense somewhere between the aquarium and the blanket fort. I'm successful, Veronica deflected. I'm respected. I've built something significant. That's not what I asked. She met his eyes. No, I'm not happy. I haven't been happy in a long time, but today, her voice softened. Today I felt something close to it. Because of the aquarium? Because of the company. She reached across the table, her hand finding his again. Because for a few hours, I got to pretend I was part of something real, something that mattered more than quarterly reports and board meetings. It wasn't pretend, Daniel said firmly. You were part of it. Mia wouldn't have invited you if she didn't genuinely want you there. She's not good at pretending. She's not the one I'm worried about. Veronica's thumb traced circles on his palm, the gesture unconscious and intimate. Daniel, we need to talk about what this is, what we're doing. I know. Because I can't be casual about this. I can't be someone you spend time with when it's convenient and ignore at work. I've had too many relationships that were built on what was easy for the other person, and I can't do that again. I don't want casual, Daniel said, his heart pounding. I don't want easy. I want... He paused, forcing himself to be brave. I want to see where this goes, if you're willing to risk it. There are complications, Veronica warned. I'm your superior at work. People will talk. There are policies about disclosure, about maintaining professional boundaries. I know. And I come with baggage, medical baggage, emotional baggage. I can't have children, Daniel. If you're thinking about expanding your family someday, I can't give you that. I have Mia, Daniel said gently. She's my family. Everything else is just details we'd figure out together, if we decided to be together. If, Veronica repeated, like she was testing the word. That's a big if. It is. And we don't have to decide tonight. We can take this slow, figure it out as we go. He squeezed her hand. But I need you to know that I'm interested. In you. In this. In whatever this could become. Veronica's eyes shimmered with tears. I'm interested too. Terrified, but interested. Then let's be terrified together. She laughed, the sound watery but genuine. That's a terrible romantic declaration. I'm out of practice. Give me time, I'll get better. They talked until almost 3 a.m, establishing boundaries and expectations. They agreed to keep things private at work, to be honest with each other about concerns, to prioritize Mia's well-being above everything else. It wasn't a commitment, not yet, but it was a beginning. When Veronica finally left, Daniel stood in his doorway and watched her drive away, feeling like he'd just stepped off a cliff and was waiting to discover if he'd fall or fly. The next few weeks established a new normal. At work, they were consummate professionals. Daniel delivered his analysis. Veronica reviewed it with the same critical eye she gave everyone else. In the executive meetings, they barely made eye contact beyond what was appropriate. But after hours, they texted. Long conversations that started about work and meandered into personal territory. Veronica asked about Mia's school projects. Daniel asked about her board meetings. They shared small details of their days, building intimacy through accumulated moments. Friday nights became their unofficial tradition. After Daniel's final delivery run, they'd meet at the diner, their diner now, with Doris greeting them like regulars. They'd talk for hours, learning each other's histories, fears, hopes. Veronica told him about the cancer treatment, the terror of waiting for test results, the grief of losing the future she'd imagined. Daniel told her about Sarah's final days, the impossible decisions, the guilt that still kept him awake some nights. I promised her I'd keep living, Daniel admitted one night, but I don't think I really understood what that meant until recently. What does it mean? Veronica asked. It means letting people in, taking risks, building something new without forgetting what came before. He looked at her across the table. It means you. Veronica's hand found his, their fingers interlacing in a gesture that had become familiar. I'm trying to do the same thing. Figure out what living looks like instead of just surviving. Are we doing okay at it? I think so, she said softly. Some days are harder than others, but yeah, I think we're doing okay. The third Saturday after the aquarium, Veronica joined them for movie night again. This time, Mia picked a documentary about deep-sea creatures, narrating over the narrator with her own facts and theories. Did you know the anglerfish uses bioluminescence to attract prey? Mia asked. I did not, Veronica said, smiling at Daniel over Mia's head. It's a hunting strategy, but also kind of beautiful, don't you think? Using light to find what you need in the dark? Daniel caught Veronica's eye, seeing his own thoughts reflected there. Sometimes the metaphors wrote themselves. After Mia went to bed, Daniel and Veronica sat on his small balcony, looking out at the city. It wasn't much of a view, mostly other apartment buildings and a slice of sky, but it was theirs. I've been thinking, Veronica said carefully, about next month. The company has a charity gala, black tie, lots of donors and board members. Sounds fancy. It is. And I was wondering, she paused, gathering courage. Would you want to go with me? As my date, not just as an employee. Daniel's heart raced. That would be pretty public. It would, which is why I'm asking, not assuming. If you're not ready, I'm ready, Daniel interrupted. I mean, I'll need to rent a tux and figure out what to do with Mia for the evening, but yeah, I'm ready. Veronica exhaled, relief evident on her face. Okay, good, because I'm tired of hiding this. Whatever this is. What is this? Daniel asked. We've been dancing around it for weeks. I don't know, Veronica admitted, but I know I think about you constantly. I know I look forward to Friday nights more than anything else in my week. I know that when Mia fell asleep on my shoulder watching Finding Nemo, I felt something I haven't felt in years, like I belonged somewhere. You do belong, Daniel said firmly. Here, with us, if you want to. I want to, she whispered. That's what terrifies me. I want this so much. Daniel pulled her closer, his arm around her shoulders, her head resting against his chest. They sat like that for a long time, not talking, just being together under the stars. Neither of them could quite see through the city lights. I need to tell you something, Veronica said eventually, about work. Daniel tensed slightly. Okay. The Chicago expansion project is going really well, partially because of your analysis. The board is impressed. That's good, right? It is. But they're also considering offering me a position heading up the Chicago office. It would be a promotion, more responsibility, more money. She paused. It would also mean relocating. Daniel's stomach dropped. To Chicago? Yeah. They haven't officially offered yet, but there have been discussions, and I wanted you to know before anything became formal. She pulled back to look at him. Because if I'm building something here, with you, with Mia, then that affects my decision. You can't turn down a promotion because of us, Daniel said automatically. We're too new, too uncertain. Maybe. But you're also the first thing that's felt real in years. The first thing that's made me want to stay somewhere instead of climbing the next rung. She cupped his face gently. I'm not saying I'll turn it down. I'm saying I want to factor you into my decision, if that's okay. Daniel closed his eyes, overwhelmed. A month ago, he'd been going through the motions, existing but not living. Now he was sitting on his balcony with a woman who was considering restructuring her entire career path because of him. When do you need to decide, he asked. They want an answer within the next few weeks, before the gala, definitely. Then let's not decide anything tonight, Daniel said. Let's just be here, together, and figure out the rest as we go. Veronica kissed him then, their first real kiss, soft and tentative, and filled with all the fear and hope they'd been carrying. When they pulled apart, both of them were trembling. I haven't done that in a long time, Veronica admitted. Me either. Was it okay? It was perfect, she said, then laughed. Terrifying, but perfect. They kissed again, longer this time, beginning to learn each other. When they finally said goodnight hours later, Daniel stood in his doorway and watched her leave, his lips still tingling, his heart racing with possibility and fear in equal measure. The next morning, Mia noticed immediately. You look different, she observed over breakfast. Different how? Daniel asked, trying to sound casual. Happier, less sad-looking. She studied him with those two wise eyes. Did something good happen? Daniel considered lying, then decided Mia deserved honesty. Veronica and I are trying to see if we could be more than friends. How would you feel about that? Mia was quiet for a long moment, pushing her cereal around her bowl. Would she be my new mom? No one could replace your mom, sweetheart. Your mom will always be your mom. Daniel knelt beside her chair. But if Veronica and I keep seeing each other, she might become a bigger part of our lives. Is that okay with you? Do you love her? Mia asked. The question caught Daniel off guard. Did he love Veronica? It was too soon to say, wasn't it? They'd only really known each other for a few weeks. But when he thought about her smile, her vulnerability, the way she listened to Mia like every word mattered, I think I could, he admitted. Maybe I already do a little. Mia nodded solemnly. Then it's okay. Because Mommy would want you to be happy. And Veronica is nice. She knows about marine biology, and she builds good blanket forts even though she's not very good at it. Daniel laughed, pulling Mia into a hug. You're pretty wise for 9 years old, you know that? I know, Mia said matter-of-factly. Can I tell Emma? She's going to be so excited that my dad is dating a CEO. Let's keep it quiet for now, okay? It's still new and we're figuring things out. Okay, Mia agreed. But when you do tell people, can I be there? I want to see their faces when they find out. Daniel smiled, marveling at his daughter's resilience, her capacity for joy even after loss. Sarah had given her that, the ability to embrace life fully, to find excitement in unexpected places. His phone buzzed. A text from Veronica. I can't stop thinking about last night. Is that normal for terrifying new beginnings? Completely normal, he replied. I'm pretty terrified myself. Good. At least we're terrified together. Always, Daniel typed, then hesitated before hitting send. Was always too much? Too soon? But it felt right, so he sent it anyway. Veronica's response came quickly. Always. I like the sound of that. And despite all the complications, despite the uncertainties and the fears, Daniel found himself smiling. For the first time in 3 years, he was looking forward instead of just surviving backward. The weeks leading up to the charity gala became a delicate dance of professional distance and personal closeness. At work, Daniel and Veronica maintained their careful boundaries. She was Ms. Lane in meetings, he was Mr. Carter in reports. But the tension between them was palpable, at least to Daniel. Every time their eyes met across the conference room, every accidental brush of hands when passing documents felt charged with everything they weren't saying. Marcus noticed first. You and Ms. Lane seem to work well together, he commented one afternoon, his tone casual but his eyes sharp. She specifically requested you for the follow-up analysis on the Chicago data. I'm just doing my job, Daniel said, keeping his voice neutral. Right, just interesting timing, that's all. She doesn't usually take such personal interest in individual analysts. Marcus leaned against Daniel's desk. Look, I'm not prying. But if there's something I should know about, for HR purposes or anything, you'd tell me, right? Daniel's heart raced. They hadn't disclosed anything yet because there wasn't officially anything to disclose. They'd kissed twice, had dinner a few times, texted constantly, but they hadn't defined what they were, hadn't made it official. There's nothing that needs HR attention, he said carefully. Yet. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Yet? She's accompanying me to the gala next week, as my date. The CEO is going to the company gala as your date. Marcus whistled low. That's bold. For both of you. Is it going to be a problem? For me? No, I think it's great, actually. You deserve happiness, Carter, and Ms. Lane deserves someone who sees her as more than just a title. Marcus straightened. But you should probably loop in HR before the gala. Fraternization policies exist for a reason, especially when there's a power dynamic involved. Daniel nodded, his stomach nodding. He'd been trying not to think about the complications, but Marcus was right. I'll talk to Veronica about it. Good. And Carter? For what it's worth, I hope it works out. You both seem lighter lately. That's worth protecting. That evening, Daniel raised the HR issue during one of their now regular phone calls. Mia was in bed, the apartment quiet, and he'd poured himself a glass of wine he wasn't drinking, just holding for something to do with his hands. Marcus knows, he said without preamble, or suspects. He mentioned we should talk to HR. Veronica was quiet for a moment. He's right. I've been avoiding it because once we disclose, it becomes official, real, as opposed to what we've been doing. This has felt like existing in a bubble, just you and me and Mia, separate from everything else. Her voice was soft, vulnerable. Once we tell HR, once we go to the gala together, everyone will know. There will be opinions, judgments, policies to navigate. Are you having second thoughts? Daniel asked, trying to keep the fear out of his voice. No, maybe. I don't know. He heard her exhale shakily. I'm scared, Daniel. Of what people will say. Of whether I can navigate a relationship while maintaining my authority at work. Of whether you'll resent the complications I'm bringing into your life. The only thing I'd resent is if you ended this because you're afraid of what other people think. Daniel set down his wine glass, gripping the phone tighter. I'm scared too, but I'd rather be scared and with you than safe and alone. When did you become so brave? Veronica asked, a smile in her voice. I'm not brave. I'm just tired of hiding. He paused. Let's schedule the HR meeting. Make this real. Unless you're not ready. I'm ready, Veronica interrupted. Terrified but ready. Can we do it together? The disclosure meeting? Together, Daniel agreed. Always together. Bunch or just... The HR disclosure meeting was scheduled for Thursday afternoon, 2 days before the gala. Daniel had never been so nervous about paperwork in his life. He met Veronica outside the HR office, both of them arriving separately to maintain appearances until it was official. Ready? Veronica asked, her professional mask firmly in place. As I'll ever be. Jennifer Morrison, Hartwell's head of human resources, greeted them with a knowing smile. Ms. Lane, Mr. Carter, please have a seat. The meeting was surprisingly straightforward. Jennifer explained the company's fraternization policy, which required disclosure but didn't prohibit relationships as long as there were safeguards against favoritism and conflicts of interest. Since Daniel didn't report directly to Veronica, the chain of command wasn't an immediate issue. However, Jennifer continued, given the significant difference in your positions, we'll need to implement some protocols. Mr. Carter, any promotion or advancement opportunities will need to be reviewed by an independent committee. Ms. Lane, you'll need to recuse yourself from any decisions directly affecting Mr. Carter's employment or compensation. Understood, Veronica said professionally. And I have to ask, Jennifer's tone softened slightly, is this serious? Because if it's casual, the disclosure requirements are different. Daniel and Veronica exchanged glances. They hadn't actually discussed this, what they were, where they were heading. It's serious, Daniel said, making the decision in real time. Or it's heading that direction. Very serious, Veronica added, her hand finding his under the table. We're still figuring out the details, but this isn't casual for either of us. Jennifer made notes on her tablet. Then we'll file this as an ongoing relationship requiring standard monitoring protocols. You'll both need to sign acknowledgement forms, and we'll schedule quarterly check-ins to ensure the arrangement isn't creating workplace issues. She looked up, her expression kind. Off the record, I think this is lovely. You both deserve happiness. Just be smart about it. After they signed the paperwork and left the office, Veronica pulled Daniel into an empty conference room, her professional composure cracking. That was terrifying, she breathed. But we did it. It's official now. Daniel pulled her close, his arms around her waist. No more hiding. No more hiding, she agreed, then kissed him with the kind of intensity that came from weeks of restraint. When they finally pulled apart, Both were breathing hard. We should stop. Anyone could walk in. Let them, Daniel said recklessly. We just disclosed to HR. We're allowed to kiss in conference rooms now. Veronica laughed, the sound bright and free. That's not actually how it works. Then how does it work? We maintain professional behavior at work, save the kissing for outside the office. She touched his face gently. But tonight, after Mia goes to bed, come over to my place. We should talk about what comes next. Your place. I've never been to your place. I know. I've been keeping you at a distance, maintaining control. Veronica's expression grew serious. But if we're doing this, really doing this, I need to let you in, all the way in. Veronica's penthouse apartment was nothing like Daniel expected. He'd imagined something cold and modern, all glass and steel and designer furniture. Instead, it was warm, filled with books and art, comfortable without being ostentatious. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a stunning view of the city, but the space itself felt surprisingly intimate. This is beautiful, Daniel said, taking it in. It's too big for one person, Veronica admitted. I bought it thinking I'd fill it someday. Family, children, life. Instead, it just echoes. She led him to the kitchen, pouring them both wine. They settled on her couch, the city lights twinkling below them, the moment feeling significant in ways Daniel couldn't quite name. I've been thinking about Chicago, Veronica said, the position they're considering me for. Daniel's stomach tightened. And I don't want it. She said it firmly, like she'd been practicing. I thought I did. The prestige, the challenge, the next step up the ladder. But then I realized I've been climbing my whole life, and I still haven't found what I was looking for at the top. What are you looking for? This, Veronica gestured between them. Connection. Family. A reason to come home that isn't just about achievement. She took a shaky breath. I want to stay here. Build something with you and Mia, if you'll have me. Really build it, not just test the waters. Daniel set down his wine glass carefully, afraid his trembling hands would spill it. You'd turn down a major promotion for us? When we've only been doing this for a few weeks? Is it crazy? Veronica asked, vulnerability stark in her voice. Maybe. Probably. Daniel pulled her closer. But I don't care. Because I want that too. I want to build something real with you. Even though I can't give you more children, even though I come with medical baggage and emotional scars. Veronica, look at me. Daniel waited until her eyes met his. I don't want you in spite of those things. I want you, all of you. The parts that survived cancer, the parts that built a company, the parts that cry in empty offices and build blanket forts with 9-year-olds. He kissed her softly. All of it. All of you. Veronica's eyes filled with tears. I love you, she whispered. I know it's too soon and too fast, but I do. I love you. Daniel's heart felt too big for his chest. I love you too. And you're right, it's probably too soon and definitely too fast. But I don't care about the timeline. I care about you. They kissed deeply, desperately, making up for weeks of careful distance. When they finally broke apart, both were shaking. Stay, Veronica said. Not for... I just don't want to be alone tonight. I need to get back to Mia. Mrs. Chen is only staying until 11. Daniel checked his watch. But I could come back tomorrow? After I drop Mia at school? I'd like that. Veronica walked him to the door, reluctant to let go of his hand. Daniel, thank you for seeing me. Really seeing me. Thank you for letting me, he replied. The charity gala arrived with the kind of nervous energy usually reserved for life-changing events. Daniel had rented a tux that fit surprisingly well, and Mia had helped him with his tie, her little fingers surprisingly deft. You look fancy, Daddy, she declared, like a prince. Just a regular guy in an uncomfortable suit, Daniel corrected. A regular guy who's dating a CEO. That's basically a prince. Mia grinned. Are you nervous? Terrified. Don't be. Veronica likes you. Everyone else doesn't matter. Daniel kissed the top of her head. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You just noticed. Mrs. Chen arrived to stay with Mia for the evening, and Daniel drove to Veronica's apartment to pick her up. When she opened the door, his breath caught. She wore a floor-length navy gown that was simultaneously elegant and devastating, her hair swept up to reveal the graceful line of her neck. "You're staring," Veronica said, but she was smiling. "You're stunning," Daniel managed. "I mean, you're always beautiful, but tonight, you clean up pretty well yourself." She adjusted his tie unnecessarily, the gesture intimate. "Are you ready for this? Once we walk in together, everyone will know." "Let them know," Daniel said, offering his arm. "I'm done hiding." The gala was held at one of Chicago's premier hotels, the ballroom glittering with chandeliers and filled with the city's elite. Daniel recognized several board members, major donors, and business leaders he'd only seen in newspapers. As he and Veronica entered together, conversations paused, heads turned. "They're staring," Daniel murmured. "Let them," Veronica said, echoing his earlier words. Her hand tightened on his arm. "We have nothing to hide." The evening became a blur of introductions and careful navigation. Veronica handled it with practiced grace, introducing Daniel as her partner to anyone who asked, her tone making it clear that the topic wasn't up for debate. Most people were polite, some were curious, a few were obviously disapproving. "So you work in analytics?" one board member asked Daniel, his tone suggesting this was somehow insufficient. "I do," Daniel replied evenly. "I lead the data analysis on the Chicago expansion project." "Ah, yes, I've read your reports. Quite thorough." The man's surprise was thinly veiled. "And you and Ms. Lane met through work?" "We did," Veronica interjected smoothly. Daniel's insights have been invaluable to the project, among other things. The subtext was clear. Daniel had value beyond his job title, and anyone who couldn't see that wasn't worth Veronica's time. They made it through dinner and the speeches, Veronica charming donors while Daniel observed, learning the rhythms of her professional world. But when the dancing started, she turned to him with relief evident in her eyes. "Dance with me?" she asked. "I need a break from performing." On the dance floor, surrounded by other couples, they finally had a moment of relative privacy. Daniel pulled Veronica close, one hand at her waist, the other holding hers. "How am I doing?" he asked. "On a scale from embarrassing you to holding my own?" "You're perfect," Veronica said firmly. "You're genuine, which is rarer than you'd think in rooms like this. People respond to that. Some of them looked at me like I was a gold digger." "Let them think what they want. I know the truth." She rested her head against his shoulder. "Thank you for doing this. I know it's not comfortable. Being with you is worth the discomfort." Daniel kissed her temple softly, "Though I'd rather be in our diner with bad pie." Veronica laughed. "Me too. Want to leave early?" "Can you? You're kind of the guest of honor. I've shown my face, schmoozed the donors, given my speech. I think I've fulfilled my obligations." She pulled back to look at him. "Let's go home." "Your place or mine?" "Yours. I want to be where you and Mia are, where it feels real." They made their exit gracefully, Veronica making appropriate goodbyes while Daniel waited by the coat check. As they stepped into the cool night air, Veronica exhaled deeply. "That was exhausting," she admitted, "but we survived. Together." Daniel helped her into his car, still amazed that this brilliant, beautiful woman chose to be with him. Back at his apartment, they changed out of their formal wear, Veronica borrowing one of his old college sweatshirts and a pair of sweatpants that were comically large on her. Without makeup, with her hair down, wearing his clothes, she looked younger, more vulnerable, more real. "This is what I want," Veronica said, curling up on his couch. "This version of us, not the gala version." "We can have both," Daniel said, sitting beside her. "We just went public tonight, showed everyone we're serious." "Are we serious?" Veronica asked. "I know we said we love each other, but what does that actually mean? What are we building toward?" It was a fair question, one they'd been dancing around. Daniel considered his answer carefully. "I think we're building toward a life together. I don't know exactly what that looks like yet, whether you move in here or we find a new place, whether it's marriage someday or just committed partnership. But I know I want you in my life and Mia's life permanently, if that's what you want too." "It is," Veronica said softly, but I need you to understand what you're signing up for. I have checkups every 3 months. Scans, blood work, the constant fear that the cancer will come back. I have scars, physical and emotional. I can't carry a child, and while adoption is an option, my medical history might complicate that. I understand all of that, Daniel said firmly. And none of it changes how I feel. Veronica, I watched my wife die from cancer. I know what that fear looks like, what those checkups mean. If you're willing to face that future with me beside you, then I'm willing to face it too. Veronica's eyes filled with tears. What if it comes back? What if you lose me like you lost Sarah? Then I'll have loved you for however long we had, and that would still be worth it. Daniel pulled her close. I'm not going into this blind. I know the risks, but I also know that hiding from love because you're afraid of loss isn't living. It's just another kind of dying. They sat in silence for a while, holding each other, the weight of their commitment settling over them. Eventually, Veronica spoke again. I want to be part of Mia's life, really part of it. Not just fun weekend activities, but school pickups and homework help and doctor's appointments. The boring, everyday stuff that makes a family. She'd love that, Daniel said. She already asks about you constantly. When you're coming over, what you think about her latest marine biology facts. Whether you'd like to see her science project. What's her project about? Ocean acidification and its effect on coral reefs. She's very concerned about the environment. Veronica smiled. She's remarkable. You've raised an incredible human, Daniel. We've raised her, Daniel corrected gently. Sarah and me together. But there's room for you too, if you want it. Not to replace Sarah, nothing could do that, but to add to Mia's life in your own way. I want that more than I can say, Veronica whispered. They fell asleep on the couch, wrapped around each other, the TV playing some late-night show neither was watching. When Daniel woke a few hours later, his neck stiff and Veronica drooling slightly on his shoulder, he felt a wave of contentment so strong it was almost painful. This was what living looked like. Messy, imperfect, real. The following Monday, Daniel arrived at work to find gossip about the gala already spreading through the office. He caught whispered conversations that stopped when he approached, curious glances from coworkers who'd never paid him much attention before. Marcus pulled him aside before the morning meeting. How'd it go? The gala? Good. Great, actually. We went public. Made it clear we're together. I heard. Half the company is buzzing about it. Marcus grinned. The other half is wondering how an analyst from the basement floors ended up with the CEO. I'm sure they have theories, Daniel said dryly. They do. Most of them wrong. Marcus's expression turned serious. But here's what matters. Are you happy? Yeah, Daniel said, realizing it was true. I am. For the first time in years, I'm actually happy. Then screw what anyone else thinks. You deserve this, Carter. The executive team meeting that morning was Daniel's first since the gala disclosure. He walked in to find the usual suspects already seated, senior strategists, department heads, and Veronica at the head of the table. She looked up when he entered, her expression professionally neutral but her eyes warm. Good morning, Mr. Carter. Please have a seat. The meeting proceeded normally. Discussions about the Chicago project and other expansion opportunities. Daniel contributed his analysis, and Veronica treated his input with the same respect she showed everyone else. No favoritism, no special treatment, just professional collaboration. But afterward, as others filed out, she caught his hand briefly. Dinner tonight? She murmured. At my place, I'll cook. You cook? I'm learning. How hard can it be? Daniel laughed. I'll be there. Should I bring fire extinguisher? Probably wise, she said, smiling. That evening became a turning point in their relationship. Veronica's attempt at cooking chicken piccata resulted in slightly burned chicken and oversalted sauce, but they ate it together at her dining table, laughing at the disaster while sharing stories about their days. I never learned to cook, Veronica admitted. My parents believed in outsourcing domestic tasks, and then I was always too busy, too focused on work. I can teach you, Daniel offered. Sarah was the cook in our family, but I learned by necessity after she died. Mia needed to eat more than frozen dinners. I'd like that. Learning from you. Veronica reached across the table. I'd like to learn a lot of things. How to be part of a family, how to balance work and life, how to be someone's partner instead of just someone's boss. You're already doing better than you think, Daniel assured her. They spent the rest of the evening on her couch, Veronica's head on his chest, talking about everything and nothing. She told him about her latest board meeting, the politics and posturing that came with her position. He told her about Mia's upcoming school play, how she'd been cast as a sea turtle and was taking the role very seriously. I want to go, Veronica said. To the play, if that's okay. Mia would be thrilled. She's already nervous about performing. Then I'll be there, front row, cheering the loudest. Veronica tilted her head up to look at him. Is this weird? How fast we're moving? Probably, Daniel admitted. But it also feels right. Like we've been waiting for this our whole lives, and now that we've found it, why waste time? I've wasted so much time already, Veronica said quietly. Years focused on achievement instead of living. I don't want to waste any more. Then we won't, Daniel promised, kissing her softly. The next few weeks established new rhythms. Veronica started joining them for weekday dinners when her schedule allowed, helping Mia with homework at the kitchen table while Daniel cooked. She attended Mia's school play, sitting beside Daniel and cheering so enthusiastically that Mia beamed from the stage. They navigated the complications of their professional relationship with care, maintaining boundaries at work while building intimacy outside it. Some coworkers remained skeptical, whispered speculation about favoritism and inappropriate relationships. But Daniel's work spoke for itself, and Veronica's professional standards never wavered. One evening, about 6 weeks after the gala, Daniel returned home to find Veronica and Mia cooking dinner together. Or trying to. There was flour everywhere, and Mia was giggling as Veronica attempted to roll out pizza dough. You're supposed to flatten it, not murder it, Mia instructed. I am flattening it, Veronica protested. It's just fighting back. Daniel leaned against the doorway, watching them, his heart so full it hurt. This was his family now, imperfect, unconventional, built from grief and hope in equal measure. Veronica looked up and caught him watching, her face dusted with flour, her expression radiant. Hi, she said softly. Hi, he replied, crossing to kiss her. How was your day? Better now, she said, and meant it. That night, after Mia went to bed, after they'd cleaned up the kitchen disaster and settled on the couch with tea, Veronica brought up something that had clearly been on her mind. My next checkup is in 2 weeks, she said quietly. The 3-month scans. Daniel's hand found hers automatically. Do you want me to come with you? Would you? I know it's a lot to ask. It's not, Daniel interrupted. I want to be there, for all of it. The good checkups and the scary ones. Veronica's eyes glistened. I'm terrified every time. That they'll find something, that I'll have to fight again, that I won't win this time. I know, Daniel said gently, and I can't promise everything will be okay, but I can promise you won't face it alone. She kissed him then, deep and grateful and full of the kind of trust that came from really being seen. When they pulled apart, she was crying, but smiling too. I never thought I'd have this, she whispered. Someone who'd stand with me through the scary parts, not just the easy ones. Always, Daniel promised. Through all of it. Always. And sitting there in his modest apartment with his daughter asleep down the hall and the woman he loved in his arms, Daniel finally understood what Sarah had meant when she'd made him promise to keep living. This was living, messy, complicated, sometimes terrifying, but real and full and worth every moment of fear. The 2 weeks before Veronica's checkup crawled by with agonizing slowness. Daniel watched her try to maintain her usual confidence, but he saw the cracks. The way she'd pause mid-sentence, lost in thought. The way her hand would unconsciously drift to her abdomen, where the scars lay hidden. At night, when she stayed over, she'd wake suddenly, gasping, pulled from nightmares she wouldn't describe. Talk to me, Daniel urged one night after she'd bolted upright at 3 a.m, her skin clammy with sweat. I dreamed they found something, Veronica whispered, that I had to tell you, tell Mia, that I was dying, that I'd finally found what I was looking for, and now I had to leave it behind. Daniel pulled her close, feeling her heart racing against his chest. You're not dying. The odds are in your favor. 2 years clean, strong response to treatment. But what if? Veronica's voice cracked. What if this is as good as it gets? What if I'm borrowing time I don't actually have? Then we make the most of the time we do have, Daniel said firmly. But I believe you're going to be fine. I have to believe that. Why? Because you can't lose someone else to cancer? The question was harsh, born of fear, but Daniel didn't flinch. No, because I've watched you fight. I've seen your strength, your resilience. Cancer took Sarah, but it didn't take you. It tried, and you won. I believe you'll keep winning. Veronica cried then, really cried, the kind of desperate sobs that came from holding terror too tightly for too long. Daniel held her through it, murmuring reassurances, letting her fear exist without trying to fix it. When she finally calmed, her voice was small. What if loving me means watching me die? Are you really ready for that possibility? I watched Sarah die, Daniel said quietly. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. And if I had to do it again with you, it would destroy me. But you know what would destroy me more? Never loving you at all because I was too afraid of the ending. Life doesn't come with guarantees, Veronica. All we can do is show up for each other, right now, today. You make it sound so simple. It is simple. It's just not easy. He kissed her forehead. We love each other. We show up. We face whatever comes. That's all any of us can do. The morning of the appointment, Daniel took the day off work. He picked up Veronica at 7, finding her already dressed and pale, her hands trembling as she locked her apartment door. I hate this, she said, sliding into his car. The waiting room, the clinical smell, the way the technicians try to keep their faces neutral while they're looking at your scans. I know, Daniel said, taking her hand. But you're not doing it alone this time. The cancer center was across town, a modern building that tried too hard to be welcoming with its soft colors and abstract art. Daniel had spent too much time in places like this during Sarah's treatment. The memories hit him hard. Sarah in a hospital gown, her hair gone, her smile brave even when her eyes showed her fear. Veronica noticed his tension. We can leave. I can do this myself. I shouldn't have asked you to... No, Daniel interrupted. I'm here. I want to be here. He squeezed her hand. I'm okay. Just old ghosts. They checked in and settled in the waiting room. Veronica filled out paperwork with shaking hands, and Daniel watched her try to maintain composure, the CEO mask slipping to reveal the terrified woman beneath. Miss Lane? A nurse appeared in the doorway. We're ready for you. Veronica stood, and Daniel stood with her. The nurse smiled. You can come back too, if you'd like. We allow support people during consultations. They followed her through sterile corridors to an examination room. The nurse took Veronica's vitals, asked routine questions about symptoms and changes, then left them alone to wait for the doctor. I had my first appointment in a room just like this, Veronica said, her voice distant. Dr. Richardson came in with my test results, and I knew from her face that it was bad. She sat down, looked me in the eye, and said, I'm afraid we found something concerning. That's how my life split into before and after. And now you're in the after, Daniel said. The surviving part. Maybe. Or maybe I'm in the intermission before the third act. Veronica's laugh was bitter. Sorry, I get morbid when I'm scared. You're allowed to be scared. You're also allowed to hope. Before Veronica could respond, the door opened. Dr. Richardson was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and gray hair pulled back in a practical bun. She smiled when she saw Veronica. It's good to see you, she said warmly. And you brought someone this time. I'm glad. You shouldn't go through this alone. She extended her hand to Daniel. I'm Dr. Richardson, Veronica's oncologist. Daniel Carter. He hesitated, unsure what to call himself. Her partner, Veronica finished firmly. Dr. Richardson's smile widened. Wonderful. Now, let's talk about your scans. She pulled up images on her computer, and Daniel saw Veronica tense beside him. I have good news. The scans are clear. No signs of recurrence, no new masses, no concerning changes. Your blood work is excellent. By all measures, you're doing remarkably well. Veronica's breath left her in a rush. Clear? Really? Really? 2 years post-treatment with consistently clear scans is an excellent sign. The longer you stay clear, the better your long-term prognosis. Dr. Richardson turned to face them fully. I know these checkups are stressful, but try to take comfort in the trend. You're winning, Veronica. When's the next checkup? Veronica asked, her voice shaky. 3 months, same schedule, but I'm optimistic. Dr. Richardson's expression softened. How are you doing otherwise? Emotionally, mentally? Better, Veronica admitted, glancing at Daniel. I'm not alone anymore. That helps. It does. Support systems are crucial for long-term recovery. Dr. Richardson made notes in her file. Any other questions or concerns? They talked for a few more minutes about minor symptoms and lifestyle recommendations. When they finally left, walking back through those sterile corridors, Veronica was crying, but this time from relief. In the car, she turned to Daniel. Clear, I'm clear. You're clear, he repeated, his own eyes wet. I told you. Thank you for being there, for holding my hand through it. Veronica wiped her eyes. Sarah was lucky to have you, and so am I. They drove to the park near Daniel's apartment, needing air and space after the claustrophobic tension of the appointment. Walking along the path, Veronica's hand in his, Daniel felt the weight of the morning finally lifting. I want to tell Mia, Veronica said suddenly, about the cancer, the treatment, the checkups. She should know why I disappear every 3 months, why I get quiet and scared. Are you sure? She's young. It might frighten her. She lost her mother to cancer. She understands more than most kids her age. Veronica stopped walking, turning to face him. And if I'm going to be part of her life, really part of it, she deserves honesty. I don't want to be someone who keeps secrets from her. Daniel considered this, understanding the instinct even as he worried about Mia's reaction. Okay, but let me be there when you tell her. We'll do it together. That evening, after dinner, they sat Mia down in the living room. She looked between them with 9-year-old intuition, sensing something important was coming. Am I in trouble? She asked. No, sweetheart, Daniel assured her. Veronica wants to talk to you about something important. Veronica took a deep breath, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Mia, do you remember when your mom was sick, with cancer? Mia's expression grew serious. Yes. She had to go to the doctor a lot. She lost her hair. She got really tired. That's right. Well, I had cancer too, about 2 years ago. Veronica spoke carefully, watching Mia's face. A different kind than your mom had, but still serious. I had to have surgery and treatment, just like she did. Mia was quiet for a moment, processing. But you're okay now? I am. I had an appointment today, actually, and the doctor said I'm doing really well, but I still have to go for checkups every 3 months to make sure the cancer doesn't come back. Like Mommy did, Mia said softly. Yes, like your mom did. And sometimes those appointments make me scared and sad because I worry about getting sick again. Veronica's voice wavered. I wanted you to know because you're important to me and I don't want to keep secrets from you. Mia was quiet for a long moment, her face thoughtful. Then she climbed off the couch and crossed to Veronica, wrapping her small arms around her neck. I'm glad you're okay, she whispered. I like Mommy did. Veronica's composure shattered. She held Mia tight, crying into her hair. I'm going to do everything I can to stay healthy. I promise. Good, Mia said firmly, because we need you. Daddy needs you, and I need you too. Daniel watched them, his heart simultaneously breaking and healing. This was his family now, built from loss and survival, held together by love that was all the stronger for being hard won. Later that night, after Mia was asleep, Veronica and Daniel sat on his balcony in the cool evening air. She'd been quiet since the conversation, processing. She took it better than I expected, Veronica finally said. She's resilient. Losing Sarah taught her that life is fragile, but she hasn't let that make her afraid of loving people. She gets that from you, Veronica said. The courage to love despite the risk. Or maybe we all get it from each other. Daniel pulled her close. You were brave today. At the appointment with Mia. I'm proud of you. I was terrified the entire time. Bravery isn't not being scared. It's being scared and doing it anyway. He kissed her temple. You're one of the bravest people I know. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the city sounds drifting up from below, distant sirens, car horns, the murmur of other people's lives continuing around them. I've been thinking, Veronica said eventually, about what comes next. For us. What do you mean? I mean, we've been dating for 2 months. We've told HR, gone public at the gala, integrated our lives. But we're still maintaining separate apartments, separate spaces. At some point, we need to decide if this is temporary or permanent. Daniel's pulse quickened. What do you want it to be? Permanent, Veronica said without hesitation. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to help Mia with her homework and argue with you about whose turn it is to do dishes. I want the boring, everyday intimacy of sharing a life. She turned to look at him. But I don't know if you're ready for that. If Mia's ready for that. I think about you moving in all the time, Daniel admitted, but this apartment is small, and it's full of Sarah's memory. I worry about asking you to fit into a space that was built for someone else. Then maybe we find a new space, Veronica suggested. Something that's ours together. Big enough for all three of us, somewhere we can build new memories without erasing the old ones. The idea settled over Daniel, simultaneously thrilling and terrifying. That's a big step. It is. And if you're not ready, I understand. But I'm ready, Daniel. I'm ready to build a life with you and Mia. Really build it, not just visit it on weekends and occasional weeknights. Daniel thought about Sarah, about the promises he'd made to her. Keep living, she'd said. Not just existing, but really living. And this, building a new life with Veronica, creating a home together. This was living. Let's do it, he said. Let's find a place together, make it official. Veronica's smile was radiant. Yeah, but we should talk to Mia first, make sure she's comfortable with it. Of course, her opinion matters most in this. They talked to Mia the next morning over pancakes. Daniel had barely finished explaining that Veronica might move in with them when Mia interrupted. Finally, she said, exasperated, I've been wondering when you'd figure that out. Daniel blinked. You have? Daddy, Veronica's here all the time anyway. She has a toothbrush in our bathroom and clothes in your dresser. She helped me with my science project last week and made me lunch when you had to work late. She's basically already living here. Mia took another bite of pancake. It'll be easier if it's official. Veronica laughed, delighted. So you're okay with it? Really okay? I'm really okay, Mia confirmed. Can we get a bigger apartment with a bathtub? This shower is really small. We can definitely find somewhere with a bathtub, Veronica promised. Over the next few weeks, they looked at apartments together. Veronica's budget opened up possibilities Daniel had never considered. Spacious 3 bedrooms in good neighborhoods, places with actual amenities and natural light. But it was Mia who found the perfect place. This one, she announced, standing in the living room of a 3rd-floor walk-up in a tree-lined neighborhood. Look, Daddy, you can see the park from the windows, and there are 2 bathrooms, and the kitchen is huge. The apartment was perfect. 3 generous bedrooms, hardwood floors, windows that let in actual sunlight. It was in a good school district close to Daniel's work and had a landlord who didn't mind that they were an unconventional family. It's perfect, Veronica agreed, watching Mia run from room to room, planning where everything would go. Should we take it? Daniel looked around the empty space, imagining it filled with their lives. Mia's artwork on the walls, Veronica's books on the shelves, dinners around a table big enough for all of them. Yes, he said. Let's take it. The move happened quickly. Veronica hired movers for her penthouse furniture, while Daniel and Mia packed up their smaller apartment themselves. Combining their belongings was an exercise in negotiation and compromise. Which couch, which dishes, how to blend Veronica's modern aesthetic with the comfortable chaos of Daniel and Mia's life. We should keep this, Mia insisted, holding up a hideous ceramic bowl Sarah had made in a pottery class. Absolutely, Veronica agreed without hesitation. It has character. They set up Sarah's photos in the living room, making sure her presence was honored in their new space. Veronica hung them herself, careful and reverent, understanding that Sarah would always be part of their family. On their first night in the new apartment, they ordered pizza and ate sitting on the floor because they hadn't assembled the dining table yet. Mia fell asleep early, exhausted from the excitement, and Daniel carried her to her new room, tucking her into a bed surrounded by unpacked boxes. When he returned to the living room, Veronica was standing by the windows, looking out at the park below. The city lights reflected in the glass, making her look ethereal, almost unreal. "This is really happening," she said softly. "We're really doing this." "Having second thoughts?" Daniel asked, coming up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "No, just overwhelmed by how good it feels." She turned in his arms to face him. "A year ago, I was alone in my office at midnight, crying because I was convinced no one would ever want me. And now I have this, a family, a home, a partner who sees all of me and chooses to stay. A year ago, I was going through the motions, existing but not living," Daniel replied. "Working 2 jobs, raising Mia alone, too afraid of being hurt again to let anyone in. And now I have you. We have each other." They kissed, slow and deep, the kind of kiss that held promises and possibilities. When they broke apart, both were smiling. "Welcome home," Daniel whispered. "Welcome home," Veronica echoed. The next few months settled into a comfortable rhythm. Mornings were chaos, Mia rushing to get ready for school, Daniel making coffee, Veronica attempting breakfast with varying degrees of success. Evenings were homework and dinner, taking turns cooking, Mia narrating facts about whichever marine animal she was currently obsessed with. Weekends were the aquarium, the park, movie nights that now included all 3 of them. At work, they maintained their professional boundaries. Daniel's contributions to the Chicago project had been significant enough that when the expansion was approved, he was offered a promotion, reviewed by an independent committee as per protocol, but earned entirely on merit. The promotion came with a raise that meant he could finally quit his delivery job, spend more time with his family. "I'm proud of you," Veronica said when he told her about the promotion. "You've worked so hard for this." "We've worked hard," Daniel corrected. "This is as much your victory as mine." But not everything was smooth. There were difficult days when Veronica would withdraw, lost in fear about her next checkup or grief about the children she'd never carry. There were nights when Daniel would wake from nightmares about Sarah, guilt washing over him that he'd found happiness with someone else. There were moments when Mia would cry for her mother, wanting specifically Sarah in ways that Veronica couldn't fulfill. The first major fight happened 3 months after they moved in together. Veronica had stayed late at work without calling, missing dinner and Mia's bedtime. When she finally came home at 10 p.m., Daniel was waiting, frustrated and worried. "You could have called," he said, trying to keep his tone even. "I'm sorry. The meeting ran late, and I lost track of time." Veronica dropped her bag by the door, exhausted. "Mia waited up for you. She wanted to show you her project." "I said I'm sorry. What do you want from me, Daniel? I have a demanding job. You knew that when we started this." "I'm not asking you to quit your job. I'm asking you to communicate, to remember that you're part of a family now, and we notice when you're not here." "I'm doing my best," Veronica snapped. "I'm trying to be a good partner and a good CEO and figure out how to be part of Mia's life. It's a lot to balance." "I know it is, but you can't just disappear without a word. That's not how this works." They'd gone to bed angry that night, lying on opposite sides of the mattress, the space between them feeling vast. But in the morning, Veronica had apologized properly, promising to be better about communication. And she had been, setting reminders on her phone, letting them know when meetings ran late, making sure to be present even when work was demanding. Daniel had his own learning curve. He struggled with letting Veronica help with Mia, with sharing parenting decisions he'd made alone for years. When Veronica suggested a different approach to Mia's bedtime routine, Daniel had bristled. "I've been doing this for years. I know what works for my daughter." "Our daughter," Veronica had said quietly. "If I'm really part of this family, she's our daughter. Not biologically, but in every way that matters." The words had hit Daniel hard, forcing him to confront his own resistance to truly sharing his life. He'd apologized, recognized that he was holding on to control because letting go meant acknowledging how much had changed. They learned to fight fair, to communicate even when it was hard, to remember that they were on the same team even when they disagreed. They learned each other's triggers and tender spots, when to push and when to give space. Mia's 10th birthday brought another milestone. She wanted a party at the aquarium, inviting her entire class plus a few family friends. Planning it together, Daniel and Veronica fell into an easy partnership. He handled the logistics, she managed the budget, both of them deferring to Mia's vision. The party was chaotic and perfect, 20 10-year-olds running through the aquarium exhibits with boundless energy. But at one point, Daniel found Veronica standing alone in front of the jellyfish tank, tears streaming down her face. "What's wrong?" he asked, alarmed. "Nothing's wrong. Everything's right." Veronica gestured at the party, at Mia laughing with her friends. "This is what I thought I'd never have. A child's birthday party, the chaos and joy of it, and here I am, helping celebrate Mia's 10th birthday, and she just introduced me to her teacher as her other mom." Her voice broke. "She called me her other mom, Daniel." He pulled her close, understanding the enormity of what that meant. "You are. You've earned that title. I didn't give birth to her. I wasn't there for her first steps or her first words. I have no legal claim to her." "Biology isn't what makes you a mother," Daniel said firmly. "Love does. Showing up does. You've been showing up for Mia every day for months now. That makes you her mother just as much as Sarah was." They stood together watching the jellyfish drift, holding each other, while around them the party continued. That night, after the guests had left and Mia had crashed from a sugar high, the three of them sat on the couch in their living room. Mia was between them, sleepy and content, wearing a new marine biology sweatshirt from one of her friends. "Best birthday ever," she mumbled. "Yeah?" Veronica asked, stroking her hair. "Yeah, because both my parents were there." She said it casually, like it was obvious, like it had always been true. Daniel met Veronica's eyes over Mia's head, seeing his own emotions reflected there. Joy, gratitude, the terror of loving something this much. Later, after Mia was in bed, Daniel found Veronica on their balcony, looking out at the city lights. "I want to make it legal," she said without preamble. "My relationship with Mia. I want to adopt her, if that's something you'd consider. If it's something she'd want." Daniel's heart raced. Adoption meant permanence, legal ties, a forever commitment. It meant trusting Veronica completely with his daughter's future. "Yes," he said, the decision instant and certain. "Yes, I'd want that. We should ask Mia, but I think she'd want it too." "Really?" Veronica turned to face him, hope and fear warring in her expression. "Really? You're her mother in every way that matters. Let's make it official." He pulled her into his arms. "Let's make all of it official." "What do you mean?" Daniel took a deep breath, making a decision he'd been circling for weeks. "Marry me. Not someday, not eventually. Marry me. Build this life with me and Mia permanently, legally, completely." Veronica stared at him, tears streaming down her face. "Are you serious?" "I've never been more serious about anything in my life." Daniel cupped her face gently. "I love you. Mia loves you. We want you forever, if you'll have us." "Yes," Veronica whispered. "Yes, yes, yes." She kissed him fiercely, desperately, joy and relief and love pouring out of both of them. When they finally pulled apart, both were crying and laughing at the same time. "I don't have a ring," Daniel admitted. "This wasn't exactly planned." "I don't need a ring. I just need you. Both of you." Veronica wiped her eyes. "When? How?" "However you want. Big wedding, small ceremony, courthouse. I don't care as long as it ends with you being my wife." "Small," Veronica decided. "Just us and Mia and a few close friends. Something intimate and real." They planned it for a month later, a simple ceremony in the park where they'd walked after Veronica's clear checkup. Just the three of them, Marcus and his wife, a handful of close colleagues, and a judge who smiled through the whole thing. Mia stood between them as they exchanged vows, holding both their hands, wearing a new dress she'd picked out herself. When the judge pronounced them married, Mia cheered louder than anyone. "We're a real family now," she announced proudly. "We were always a real family," Veronica said, kneeling down to hug her. "But now it's official." That night, in their apartment, their home, the three of them celebrated with takeout and cake. Mia fell asleep on the couch between them, and Daniel carried her to bed one more time, marveling at how much had changed in less than a year. When he returned, Veronica was standing in the same spot where she'd stood on their first night in this apartment, looking out at the park below. But this time, she wasn't wondering if it would work. This time, she knew. "Mrs. Carter," Daniel said, testing out the name. Veronica turned, her smile radiant. "Mr. Lane Carter," she countered. "We're hyphenating, remember?" "Right. How could I forget?" He pulled her close, swaying slightly, even though there was no music. "Happy?" "Deliriously," Veronica said. "Terrified, but deliriously happy." "Good. Me too." They stood together in the quiet of their home, their daughter sleeping peacefully down the hall, their future uncertain but faced together. And for the first time in years, neither of them was just surviving. They were living fully and completely, scars and all. The adoption process began 2 weeks after the wedding. Daniel and Veronica sat across from a family court attorney named Patricia Wu, who specialized in step-parent adoptions. Her office was warm and comfortable, designed to put nervous families at ease. "The good news is that step-parent adoptions are typically straightforward," Patricia explained, reviewing their paperwork. "Since you're married and Daniel has sole custody, we're essentially just adding Veronica's parental rights. The court will want to ensure it's in Mia's best interest, but given the stability of your home and Mia's clear attachment to Veronica, I don't anticipate any issues." "How long does it take?" Veronica asked, her hand tight in Daniel's. "Usually 3 to 6 months. Home study, background checks, interviews with Mia to ensure she understands and wants this. Then a court hearing where the judge finalizes everything." Patricia smiled. "I've handled dozens of these. Yours is one of the most straightforward I've seen. It's clear you're already a family in every way that matters." That evening, they sat down with Mia to explain the process. She listened intently as Veronica described what adoption meant, how it would make their family legal in the eyes of the law. "So you'd be my real mom?" Mia asked. "Like, officially?" "I'd be your legal mother, yes," Veronica said carefully. "But I want you to understand something important. Your first mom, Sarah, will always be your real mom too. Nothing about this changes that. You can love both of us. There's room in your heart for all of us." Mia was quiet for a moment, processing. "What would I call you? Mom? Veronica? Something else?" "Whatever feels right to you," Veronica said. "There's no rush to decide. Can I think about it?" "Of course, sweetheart," Daniel said. "This is your decision too. If you're not comfortable with the adoption, we won't do it." But Mia shook her head firmly. "I want it. I definitely want it. I just need to figure out the name part." She looked at Veronica seriously. "Is it okay if sometimes I still get sad about my first mom? Even if I love you too?" Veronica's eyes filled with tears. "It's more than okay. I'd be worried if you weren't sad sometimes. She was your mom first, and she loved you so much. Being sad about missing her doesn't mean you love me less. It just means you have a big heart with room for all of us." Mia climbed into Veronica's lap, something she'd started doing more frequently over the past months. "I think I want to call you Mama, like Mommy was my first mom, and you're my Mama. Is that weird?" "It's perfect," Veronica whispered, holding her tight. "It's absolutely perfect." The home study happened a month later. A social worker named James came to their apartment, observing their interactions, asking questions about their daily routine, their parenting philosophy, how they handled conflict. He interviewed Mia separately, giving her space to express any concerns. When he finished, James smiled warmly. "I'll submit my report to the court, but I can tell you now that it will be unequivocally positive. This is a loving, stable home. Mia is thriving. You're doing everything right." "Even though we've only been together less than a year?" Veronica asked, the old insecurity creeping in. "Love doesn't operate on a timeline," James said. "What matters is the quality of the relationship, the commitment you've demonstrated, the way you've integrated your lives. Some families take years to achieve what you've built in months. That's not a red flag. It's a testament to your dedication." While the adoption proceeded, life continued its forward momentum. Veronica's next checkup came and went, clear again, her third consecutive clean scan. Each one made the future feel more certain, less borrowed. Daniel watched her confidence grow with each good result. saw her begin to truly believe she might have decades ahead of her instead of just years. At work, the Chicago expansion launched successfully, largely due to Daniel's analysis. The board was impressed enough that they created a new senior analyst position specifically for him, a role that came with significant autonomy and a salary that made Veronica's income less necessary for their daily expenses. "You should consider stepping back," Daniel suggested one evening. They were cooking dinner together, a routine they'd perfected, Daniel handling the complex parts while Veronica chopped vegetables and narrated her day. Not quitting, but maybe reducing your hours. Delegating more. "You've been CEO for 4 years. You've proven everything you need to prove." Veronica was quiet, her knife pausing mid-chop. "I've been thinking about that, actually. The board approached me about transitioning to a chairman role. Less day-to-day management, more strategic oversight. It would mean fewer hours, more flexibility." "What did you tell them?" "That I'd think about it. Being CEO has been my identity for so long. I'm not sure who I am without it." She resumed chopping, her movements precise. "But then I think about missing Mia's school events because of meetings, about the stress affecting my health, about wanting more time with both of you. Maybe it's time for a change." "Whatever you decide, we'll support it," Daniel said, kissing her temple. "But for what it's worth, I think you'd be an excellent chairman, and I think you deserve to enjoy your life instead of just achieving in it." 2 weeks later, Veronica accepted the chairman position. The transition would happen gradually over 6 months, giving her successor time to adjust. When she told Daniel and Mia, they celebrated with champagne for the adults and sparkling cider for Mia. "Does this mean you'll be home more?" Mia asked, hopefully. "A lot more," Veronica promised. "I'll be able to do school pickup, help with homework, come to all your activities." "Good, because I have a marine biology presentation next month and I want you there, both of you." The presentation was everything Mia had promised and more. She stood in front of her 5th grade class, confident and passionate, explaining ocean acidification and its impact on marine ecosystems. Daniel and Veronica sat in the back row, watching her command the room with the same natural authority Veronica used in boardrooms. Afterward, as they walked to the car, Mia skipped between them, holding both their hands. "Did you see how everyone was paying attention? Even Tommy, and he never pays attention to anything." "You were brilliant," Veronica said. "A natural presenter." "I learned from the best," Mia said, grinning up at her. "You do presentations all the time at work. I watched how you do it." Veronica had to stop walking, overcome with emotion. This child, who'd lost her mother to cancer, who'd watched her father struggle alone, who'd opened her heart to someone new despite the risk, she was thriving, not just surviving, but genuinely thriving. "Mama, are you crying?" Mia asked, concerned. It was the first time Mia had used the name unprompted, naturally, like it had always belonged to Veronica. "Happy tears," Veronica managed. "Just really happy tears." The adoption hearing was scheduled for a crisp autumn morning, nearly a year after Daniel and Veronica had first met in that late-night office encounter. They dressed carefully. Daniel in a suit, Veronica in a professional but warm dress, Mia in her favorite outfit that she'd insisted on wearing because the judge should see the real me. In the courthouse waiting room, Veronica's hands trembled. What if something goes wrong? What if the judge has concerns? "Nothing's going to go wrong," Daniel said firmly. "We've done everything right. The home study was perfect. Mia wants this. We're a family already. This is just making it official." When their case was called, they walked into the courtroom together. Judge Maria Santos sat behind the bench, an older woman with kind eyes and a warm smile. She reviewed their file, asked a few routine questions, then turned her attention to Mia. "Young lady, I understand you want Veronica to adopt you. Can you tell me why?" Mia stood up straighter, meeting the judge's eyes with remarkable composure. "Because she's my mama. She helps me with my homework and comes to my school events and teaches me about being strong, even when you're scared. She makes my dad happy, and she makes our family complete. And you understand that this is permanent? That Veronica will be your legal parent, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails?" "Yes, ma'am." "I understand." Mia glanced back at Veronica and Daniel. "I want it to be permanent. I want us to be a real family forever." Judge Santos smiled, making a note in her file. From where I sit, you're already a real family. But let's make it legal. She looked at Veronica. Ms. Lane Carter, do you promise to love, support, and care for Mia as your daughter, to put her welfare above your own, to guide and nurture her to the best of your ability? Veronica stood, her voice clear and strong despite the tears streaming down her face. I do. I promise all of that and more. She's already my daughter in every way that matters. This just makes it official. Then by the power vested in me by the state, I hereby grant this adoption. Congratulations, you're officially a family. Judge Santos brought down her gavel with a decisive knock. Mia launched herself at Veronica, who caught her and spun her around, both of them laughing and crying. Daniel joined them, wrapping his arms around both his girls, his heart so full it felt like it might burst. Outside the courthouse, they took photos on the steps, official family portraits that would hang in their living room alongside the ones of Sarah. Because that was the thing they'd all learned. Love didn't replace love. It added to it, expanded it, made room for all the people who'd shaped their family. Marcus and his wife had come to witness the hearing, and they all went out for lunch afterward to celebrate. Mia insisted on calling everyone she knew to announce that she now officially had two moms, her pride evident in every word. How does it feel? Marcus asked Veronica quietly while Mia was showing his wife photos on Daniel's phone. Like I finally found what I was looking for, Veronica said simply. I spent so long climbing, achieving, trying to prove I was enough. And the whole time, what I needed was right here, a family who loved me not for what I accomplished, but for who I am. That night, after the celebration died down and they returned home, the three of them settled on the couch in their living room. It had become their tradition, ending significant days together, processing them as a family. Today was perfect, Mia announced. The judge was nice, and now it's official. Mama is really my mama. I really am, Veronica agreed, stroking Mia's hair. Forever and always. Tell me about my first mom, Mia said suddenly. Daddy tells me stories, but I want to hear what you think she was like. Veronica glanced at Daniel, who nodded encouragingly. This was new territory, but important. I think she was incredibly brave, Veronica began. She fought so hard to stay with you and your dad, and I think she was creative and joyful because those qualities are so strong in you. I think she loved you more than anything in the world. Do you think she'd be okay with you being my mama now? I think she'd be grateful, Veronica said honestly. Because all she ever wanted was for you to be loved and cared for. And now you have more people loving you. That's not a betrayal of her. It's honoring what she wanted for you. Mia nodded, satisfied. I like having two moms, even if one of them is in heaven and one is here. You're very lucky, Daniel said. Not many kids get that much love. I know, Mia said, her eyelids drooping. I'm the luckiest. She fell asleep there on the couch, nestled between them. Daniel and Veronica sat in the quiet, marveling at the child they'd been entrusted with, the family they'd built from grief and hope. I have my next checkup next week, Veronica said quietly. The year mark since we met. I'll be there, Daniel said automatically. I know, but I'm not as scared this time. She looked down at Mia, sleeping peacefully. I have too much to live for now, too many school presentations to attend, too many movie nights to miss. The cancer doesn't get to take this from me. The checkup came back clear again, her fourth consecutive clean scan. Dr. Richardson was openly optimistic now, talking about long-term survival rates and the decreasing likelihood of recurrence with each passing year. You're winning, she told Veronica. Keep doing whatever you're doing. I'm living, Veronica said simply. Really living, for the first time in my life. Winter arrived, bringing with it Mia's 11th birthday and the holidays. They celebrated both with the kind of enthusiastic chaos that had become their norm. Too much food, too many decorations, too much love to contain in one small apartment. Veronica had officially transitioned to her chairman role by then, working from home several days a week, attending only the most critical meetings. The change had been transformative. She was more relaxed, more present, more genuinely happy than Daniel had ever seen her. I spent so long thinking my worth was tied to my achievements, she reflected one evening. They were sitting on their balcony despite the cold, wrapped in blankets, and watching the first snow of the season fall. That if I wasn't striving, I wasn't valuable. But this, she gestured back toward their apartment, where Mia was doing homework at the kitchen table. This is the achievement that matters. Building a family, being present, loving and being loved. You're allowed to be proud of your professional accomplishments too, Daniel said. You built an incredible career. You can value that and value this. I do. But for the first time, if I had to choose, I'd choose this. She leaned her head on his shoulder. A year ago, I was alone in my office, crying because I thought no one would ever want me. Now I have everything I never knew I needed. A year ago, I was delivering reports and going through the motions, too scared to really live, Daniel countered. Now I have you. We have each other. Inside, Mia called out, Mama, can you help me with this math problem? I'm stuck. Veronica stood, smiling. That's my cue. The one part of parenting I'm actually qualified for, math homework. Daniel watched her go, marveling at how seamlessly she'd integrated into their lives. There were still hard days, moments when the grief for Sarah hit unexpectedly, times when Veronica's medical anxiety spiked, instances when they disagreed on parenting approaches. But they'd learned to navigate those challenges together, to communicate through the difficult moments instead of around them. Spring brought another milestone. Hartwell Industries announced a major charitable initiative focused on cancer research and patient support, funded partially by Veronica's personal donation. At the launch event, she gave a speech that laid bare her own journey, the diagnosis, the treatment, the fear, and ultimately, the survival. I'm standing here today because of excellent medical care and a lot of luck, she told the assembled crowd, but I'm thriving because I found people who saw me as more than my diagnosis, who loved me despite my scars, who built a life with me even though my future was uncertain. Her eyes found Daniel and Mia in the audience. Cancer tried to take everything from me. Instead, it led me to everything I'd been missing. The initiative raised millions for cancer research, but more importantly, it gave Veronica a new sense of purpose. She started mentoring young women going through cancer treatment, offering the kind of support she'd wished she'd had during her own journey. You helped me, she told Daniel when he asked why she was dedicating so much time to it. That night in my office, you saw me crying and you didn't look away. You showed me that vulnerability wasn't weakness. I want to do that for other women. Summer arrived with its lazy heat and long days. Mia's marine biology obsession had evolved into concrete plans. She wanted to study oceanography in college, work for conservation organizations, make a real difference. Veronica encouraged her ambitions, helping her research programs and opportunities, leveraging her professional connections to arrange tours of marine research facilities. You're setting the bar really high for her, Daniel observed one evening after Veronica had spent 2 hours helping Mia draft a letter to a marine biologist she admired. Good. She should aim high. She's brilliant and passionate and capable of anything she sets her mind to. Veronica smiled. Besides, she needs to know that the women in her life believe in her potential, both her mothers. They'd started talking about the future more concretely, where they wanted to be in 5 years, 10 years, what kind of life they wanted to build. Daniel had dreams of maybe starting his own analytics consulting firm. Veronica talked about traveling, showing Mia the world beyond their city. Mia wanted a dog, a sentiment she expressed approximately daily. Maybe when you're 12, Daniel said for the 1,000th time. That's only 8 months away, Mia pointed out. We're aware, Veronica said, laughing. On their first wedding anniversary, Daniel and Veronica escaped for a weekend away while Mia stayed with Marcus and his family. It was the first time they'd been truly alone since the wedding, and the freedom was both exhilarating and slightly terrifying. I don't know what to do without someone asking me for snacks every 20 minutes, Veronica joked as they checked into a bed and breakfast 2 hours outside the city. We could sleep in, have uninterrupted conversations. Remember what it's like to be a couple instead of just parents. Daniel pulled her close. Though I'm betting we talk about Mia the entire time anyway. They did talk about Mia, but they also talked about themselves, their dreams, their fears, the ways they'd grown together and individually over the past year. They made love without worrying about being quiet, slept late without being woken by a child jumping on the bed, ate leisurely meals without negotiating vegetables. "I love our life," Veronica said as they walked through a nearby nature preserve. "The chaos and the noise and the constant negotiations. But this is nice too, remembering who we are as partners, not just as parents." "We should do this more often," Daniel agreed. "Make time for us, even while we're building a family." "Agreed, though I already miss her. We've been gone 12 hours. "I know. I'm hopeless." But Veronica was smiling, the kind of smile that came from loving something so much that even brief separation felt too long. They returned home to find Mia full of stories about her weekend, talking a mile a minute about the movies she'd watched and the games she'd played with Marcus's kids. But that night, she climbed into bed between them, something she rarely did anymore at nearly 11. "I missed you guys," she admitted. "Is that silly? It was only 2 days." "Not silly at all," Veronica assured her. "We missed you too." "Even though you were having grown-up time?" "Especially then," Daniel said, "because the best part of grown-up time is coming home to you." As summer faded into autumn again, marking more than a year since the adoption, their family found its rhythm. Veronica's checkups became routine, still anxiety-inducing, but no longer the source of existential terror they'd once been. 5 consecutive clear scans, the odds of recurrence dropping with each one. Daniel's consulting firm was taking shape, planned for launch the following spring. Mia was thriving in 6th grade, her confidence and intellect blossoming. Their life had settled into something that felt sustainable, joyful, real. One Saturday afternoon, they were at the aquarium, their place, where so much of their story had unfolded. Mia was narrating facts about the beluga whales to a group of younger children who'd gathered around her, her natural teaching ability on full display. "She's going to do remarkable things," Veronica said, watching her with undisguised pride. "She already is," Daniel replied. "Look at her. She's confident, compassionate, brilliant. She took the worst thing that could happen to a kid, losing her mom, and somehow came through it stronger. She had you. You gave her the foundation to be strong. We gave her that, both of us. You and Sarah and me." Daniel took Veronica's hand. "She's the product of so much love. How could she be anything but remarkable?" That evening, as they walked back to their car, Mia between them holding both their hands, she asked the question that had clearly been on her mind. "Can we go visit Mommy tomorrow? I want to tell her about my new science teacher and the whale presentation I'm doing." Daniel and Veronica exchanged glances. They'd been to Sarah's grave several times over the past year, always at Mia's request, never pushing, but always supportive. "Of course," Daniel said. "We can bring flowers, her favorites. The yellow roses," Mia confirmed. "And I want Mama to come too. Is that okay?" "If your Mama's comfortable with it," Daniel said carefully. "I'd be honored," Veronica said, her voice thick with emotion. The next morning they drove to the cemetery together. It was a beautiful day, the autumn leaves just beginning to turn. They found Sarah's grave easily. Daniel had been here countless times over the years, though less frequently since Veronica and Mia had come into his life. Mia placed the yellow roses carefully, then sat down cross-legged in the grass. "Hi, Mommy. I brought Daddy and Mama. I wanted you to meet her officially. I know you probably already know her from heaven or wherever you are, but still." Daniel knelt beside Mia, Veronica on her other side. The three of them made an unlikely tableau, a family built from loss and love sitting together in a cemetery on a Sunday morning. "I'm in 6th grade now," Mia continued, "and I'm doing really well in science. I'm giving a presentation on whale conservation next month. Mama's been helping me prepare, but I wish you could see it too." Her voice wavered. "I miss you every day, Mommy, but I'm okay. Better than okay. Daddy's happy again, and I have a new Mama who loves me, and we're a family, a real family." Veronica was crying silently, tears streaming down her face. Daniel put his arm around her, holding her close, while Mia talked to Sarah about school, about her friends, about her dreams for the future. "I hope you're not sad that Mama is my mom now too," Mia said. "I think you'd like her. She's smart and kind, and she makes really bad pancakes, but she tries really hard. And she loves me and Daddy so much, and—" She paused. "I think you sent her to us. I think maybe you knew we needed her, and you made sure she found us. So thank you for that, Mommy. Thank you for taking care of us, even from heaven." They sat in silence for a while, the three of them together, honoring the woman who'd made this family possible in ways both obvious and profound. Finally, Mia stood, brushing grass from her jeans. "Okay, I'm ready to go now." She looked at Veronica seriously. "I'm glad I have two moms. It doesn't mean I love either of you less. It means I'm lucky enough to love you both." "You're lucky," Veronica agreed, pulling her into a hug. "And so am I. So lucky to be your mama." As they walked back to the car, Daniel took Veronica's hand. "Are you okay? That was intense." "I'm more than okay," Veronica said. "I feel like I finally have Sarah's blessing, like she really did send me to you, and now I can stop feeling guilty about the happiness we've found." "She would have liked you," Daniel said with certainty. "She would have appreciated how you love Mia, how you've honored her memory while building your own relationship with our daughter. She would have been grateful." That night, after Mia was asleep, Daniel and Veronica lay in bed talking about the day, about the journey that had brought them to this moment. "When I was sick," Veronica said quietly, "when I was going through treatment alone, I used to imagine what my life would look like if I survived. I pictured success, achievement, proving I could beat the cancer and come back stronger. But I never imagined this, a family, a child who calls me mama, a partner who sees all my scars and loves me anyway." "You imagined wrong," Daniel said, kissing her softly. "This is what survival looks like. Not achievement, connection. Not success, love." "I'm glad I was wrong," Veronica whispered. "I'm so glad." The following spring brought Daniel's consulting firm launch, Mia's 12th birthday, and finally, the long-negotiated dog, a rescue golden retriever named Captain, who immediately became Mia's constant companion. Their apartment felt almost too small for the growing chaos of their life, so they started looking at houses with yards and extra bedrooms. "We could have space for a home office," Veronica mused, looking at listings, "and a real dining room for when we host dinners, and a yard for Captain. And maybe a spare room," Daniel added carefully. "For guests. Or what? Or maybe we could look into fostering," Daniel said. The idea had been germinating for months. Conversations with Veronica about her grief over not having biological children leading to discussions about other ways to build a family. Not adoption necessarily, but providing temporary homes for kids who need them. "We have so much love to give. Why not share it?" Veronica's eyes filled with tears. "You'd want to do that? Even though it would mean more chaos? More complications?" "I think we're pretty good at chaos and complications by now," Daniel said. "And I think you'd be an incredible foster parent. You've got so much love to give, and just because you can't carry a child doesn't mean you can't mother more children." They researched, attended information sessions, began the certification process. Mia was enthusiastic about the idea of temporary siblings, her generous heart already imagining how they could help kids who needed families. "We'll be like a love station," she announced. "Kids can come stay with us and get filled up with love, and then when they find their forever families, they'll take that love with them." "A love station," Veronica repeated, smiling through tears. "I like that." Summer arrived again, bringing with it Veronica's annual checkup, her 7th consecutive clear scan. Dr. Richardson was openly jubilant now, talking about 5-year survival rates and the statistical significance of her continued health. "You're not just surviving," she told Veronica. "You're thriving. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." "I'm living," Veronica said, the same answer she always gave. "Really, fully living." They bought a house that summer, a 3-bedroom with a yard and a finished basement and enough space for all the love they wanted to share. Moving in was chaos, boxes everywhere, and Captain running through the rooms barking excitedly. But when they finally collapsed on the couch that first night, exhausted and surrounded by unpacked boxes, it felt like home. "This is it," Veronica said, looking around at the disaster of their new living room. "This is the life I was supposed to have all along. I just had to fight my way to it." "We all had to fight our way here," Daniel corrected, "through loss and fear and grief. But we made it, together." Mia wandered in from exploring the backyard, Captain at her heels. "I love it here," she announced. "It feels like a real home, like we're really a family." "We've always been a real family," Daniel reminded her. "I know, but now we have a house to prove it." She grinned. "And a yard. And a dog. We're basically living the dream." Their first foster placement came that fall. A 7-year-old girl named Emma, who'd been removed from an unsafe home situation. She was quiet and wary, flinching from sudden movements, clearly expecting adults to hurt her. But Mia took her under her wing immediately, showing her the room they'd prepared, introducing her to Captain, treating her with the kind of gentle patience that came from understanding loss. Watching Veronica with Emma was transformative. She was patient and consistent, setting boundaries while offering unconditional love. When Emma had nightmares, Veronica sat with her through them. When Emma tested limits, Veronica held firm but kind. She was everything a scared child needed, and seeing her in that role made Daniel fall in love with her all over again. Emma stayed with them for 3 months before being reunified with a recovered parent. The goodbye was hard. Mia cried, Veronica cried, even Captain seemed depressed. But they'd done what they'd set out to do, filled Emma with enough love and stability that she could return to her family stronger. "Will we see her again?" Mia asked as they drove home from the goodbye visit. "Maybe, if her family wants to stay in touch," Veronica said. "But even if we don't, we gave her something she'll carry forever. We showed her what love looks like, what family can be. That's not nothing." More placements followed, a set of siblings who stayed for 6 weeks, a teenager who'd aged out of his previous placement and needed a soft landing before adulthood, a toddler who was eventually adopted by relatives. Each child brought their own trauma, their own needs, their own capacity for love, and each one left a little piece of their heart with the family, just as the family left their love with them. Through it all, Veronica's health remained stable. Clear scans every 3 months, then every 6 months as she reached the 5-year mark. Dr. Richardson started using words like remission and cured, though Veronica was superstitious enough to reject the latter. "I'm surviving," she'd say, "one day at a time. That's all any of us can do." The years unfolded with the kind of beautiful mundanity that comes from a life well lived. Mia started high school, her sights set firmly on marine biology programs at colleges with strong ocean science departments. Daniel's consulting firm grew steadily, giving him the flexibility to be present for school events and family dinners. Veronica fully transitioned out of her chairman role, focusing her energy on family, her cancer mentorship program, and serving on nonprofit boards dedicated to causes she cared about. They fostered a dozen children over those years, each one leaving their mark on the family. Some stayed in touch, sending updates and photos. Others disappeared into their new lives, carrying the love they'd received like a secret treasure. It didn't matter. The Lane Carter family had become a love station, just as Mia had predicted, and they were fulfilled by the giving rather than the receiving. On what would have been Sarah's 40th birthday, Daniel and Veronica and Mia visited her grave together, a tradition they'd maintained over the years. Mia was 15 now, tall and confident, planning for college and the future. She placed yellow roses on the grave with practiced ease. "Hi, Mommy. I'm applying to colleges this year. Can you believe it? Your baby is almost grown up." She smiled, tears in her eyes. "I wish you could be here to see it, but I feel you sometimes, in the ocean breeze, in the way Daddy smiles, in the love Mama gives me. You're still here, just differently." Daniel and Veronica stood together, his arm around her waist, watching their daughter honor the woman who'd made their family possible. So much had changed in the years since that midnight encounter in Veronica's office. So much had been built from grief and hope and the courage to keep living. "Thank you," Veronica whispered, though whether she was talking to Sarah or Daniel or the universe itself, he couldn't say. "For what?" "For all of it. For seeing me that night. For choosing to love me despite the complications. For building this life with me." She looked up at him, her eyes bright. "For giving me a family when I thought I'd lost my chance at one." "Thank you for letting me in," Daniel replied. "For being brave enough to love again after everything you'd been through. For becoming Mia's mother when you didn't have to. For teaching me that living means taking risks, even when you're scared." They stood together in the cemetery, their daughter between them, honoring the past while embracing the future. Cancer had tried to take everything from both of them. Sarah from Daniel, the possibility of children from Veronica, but instead of destroying them, loss had led them to each other, had taught them that families could be built in unexpected ways, that love was stronger than fear, that survival meant more than just staying alive. As they walked back to the car, Mia took both their hands, something she still did sometimes when moments felt significant. "I'm really lucky, you know," she said. "Not everyone gets two mothers who love them this much. Two mothers who both fought so hard, one to stay with me as long as she could, one to stay alive so she could become my family." "We're the lucky ones," Veronica said firmly. "Getting to be your parents, both of us in our different ways, is the greatest gift we could have received." That night, after Mia was asleep and the house was quiet, Daniel and Veronica sat in their backyard, watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. Captain dozed at their feet, the sounds of the neighborhood settling into evening quiet around them. "I was thinking," Veronica said, "about that night in my office, when you walked in and saw me crying." "What about it?" "If you'd just left the reports and walked away like protocol said you should have, none of this would exist. We wouldn't be sitting here. I wouldn't be Mia's mother. I'd probably still be alone in that penthouse, achieving and succeeding and completely empty inside." "But I didn't walk away," Daniel said, "because something about you, about your sadness, your loneliness, called to something in me. Maybe it was recognizing a fellow survivor. Maybe it was fate. Maybe it was Sarah, wherever she is, pushing us together because she knew we needed each other." "I like that idea," Veronica said softly. "That she's still looking out for you, for Mia, that she approves of what we've built. I think she does. I think she'd be happy that Mia has you, that I have you, that we've created something beautiful from all the loss." Daniel pulled Veronica closer. "I think she'd say we did exactly what we were supposed to do. We kept living, really living, not just surviving." They sat in comfortable silence, years of shared history and hard-won trust between them. The house behind them held their sleeping daughter, their dog, memories of all the foster children who'd passed through their doors. It held laughter and tears, ordinary moments and extraordinary ones, the accumulated weight of a life fully lived. "I love you," Veronica said. "I don't say it enough, but I do. I love you for seeing me that night, for believing I was worth fighting for building this family with me even though it was complicated and scary and uncertain." "I love you too," Daniel replied, "for being brave enough to let me in, for loving Mia like she's your own, for showing me that hearts can heal even when they're scarred." The future stretched ahead of them, uncertain as all futures are. There would be more checkups, more anxiety, the perpetual shadow of Veronica's cancer history. There would be Mia leaving for college, the empty nest years, the challenges of aging and changing. There would be more foster children needing love, more opportunities to give, more ways to grow. But they would face it together, the three of them and whatever children came temporarily into their lives. They would face it with the same courage and hope and stubborn determination that had brought them this far. Because that was what survival meant, not just enduring, but thriving. Not just getting through the day, but building a life worth living. Not just protecting your heart from more loss, but opening it wide enough to hold all the love the world had to offer. Veronica's scars, once symbols of everything she'd lost, had become markers of everything she'd survived to gain. Daniel's grief, once a prison, had become a foundation for new love. Mia's early loss had taught her that family was built not just from biology, but from choice and commitment and showing up every day. Together, they'd created something neither had imagined possible in those dark days of loss and illness. Together, they'd proven that endings could lead to new beginnings, that scars could be beautiful, that love was always worth the risk. As the stars emerged fully above them, Daniel and Veronica sat hand in hand, grateful for every moment that had led them here, the painful ones and the joyful ones, the scary ones and the certain ones. Because all of it, every single moment, had been necessary to build the life they now shared. A life built on courage, vulnerability, and the simple, profound truth that love, messy, complicated, imperfect love, was always enough.